Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
An amazing event happened on planet Earth in the beautiful city of Beijing, China. The cosmic ray technology was shown for the first time to the public by the financial arm of Keshe Foundation, the American Mark Ray Corporation, which is traded on the US stock exchange. Mr. Keshe himself went to China to show creation of materials from the magnetic fields by using obsolete technology, or what we call rotating gas reactors with electric motors. He's using these old reactors as a starting point for humanity to slowly accept the evolution in science and technology. For 3 days straight, the reactors were run and shown live on Zoom so that anybody from around the world who wanted to could come in and see. Black particles like dust start appearing on the white paper sheets around the reactors. These particles are being created through the reactors and the fields of the universe and the inertia of our planet. They are not coming from the room. There were 4 sets of pairs of reactors with red and green gases spinning in them. We were told they were not CH3 and CuO, but something else. They were set up in a star formation on tables inside the front windows of the Intercontinental Hotel. Anybody passed on the street could see them. White papers and spoons were spread around the reactors to catch the materials being formed from the fields. Some knowledge seekers were able to capture on video when black specks suddenly appeared on the paper, like out of thin air. It was very interesting to witness when energy first appears in the matter state. As time went on and the fields built up and changed strength, the specks formed into bigger pieces and some elongated, and some changed color into gold. This is the first time the public has been able to freely witness the creation of matter from energy. At the end of 3 days, Mr. Keshe collected more particles and showed everyone attending. An interesting thing occurred. When he touched the black dust on the paper with his finger, it turned gold. He said it interacted with the fields of the inertia of the earth through his finger. This phenomenon was written about in ancient times when the Greek god Midas touched things and it was said they turned to gold. What we witness here is how everything in the universe is created, from our cells to the planets and even cancer.
And welcome each and all to the Keshe American Knowledge Team, otherwise the knowledge of creation, the knowledge of the universe. It's even being sold in the stock market, and we're privileged and humbled to be here to start to absorb more and more of this knowledge as we become enlightened through many ways within the Keshe Foundation, but basically tapping into energies. And of course, there's whenever we refer to a game, it's the game of peace and enlightenment, a revolutionary product that has more implications and ramifications than we can imagine. But we'll cover some of the 636 Knowledge Seekers Workshop today, and hopefully a couple of the questions. I also want to cover something that Mr. Keshe brought a few years ago, following some of these transmutation sessions. And of course, today is Easter. We want to and we wish everyone that's celebrating this, and I celebrated it a number of years, not knowing what the true message was, and this has been opened up. So in the German transmutation sessions, there was a question and answer, and Mr. Keshe went into a little bit or another aspect of this transmutation, which is exactly what Christ showed on the cross, which is exactly what most of the Christians or all of the Christians missed, the same way we miss the idea of the gift of the three wise men. So we're going to cover a little bit of that today, and of course about the collective guilt and forgetting about the past in a way for the German community and Austrian and so on. And of course, this is the day we were told that someone else in a way, took the burden of our sins, but I think we're finding out that there's no punishment and no forgiveness. We actually carry most of the things we do with us in either the good knapsack or the bad knapsack, and that's for us to remember and to learn from. But we're going to cover, again, a little bit of that because this is part of gaining an understanding of immortality. Before you actually have the final bell or the final call, let's say. And if we wait till that period of time, we're going to have a lot to learn. So we're really being gifted some amazing technology and amazing knowledge that we can apply to our own universe. And what we saw in this video is the exact same process that happens in our universe within our own structure. And of course, we showed the picture of the cell and how it looks very similar, and this is the connection. But through these emotions or these cosmic rays, apparently we can create even asteroids or other things within our own structure. Or you can go the other way and bring about peace and enlightenment. So many aspects, but it's for each one of us to find that and apply it and open it up as we see or what befits us. So that's why in the Keshe Foundation, we don't have what's called peer review. We believe what you tell us and what you experience and what you update yourself with based on your level of understanding. And of course, as Mr. Keshe usually does, mankind's intellect hasn't reached the level of understanding of a grain of rice. I think he put it that way. So only because the rice has created its structure without killing and stealing, which is part of this stone, let's say, in the kidney of the creator, or the stone in the elephant's foot, or if you put a stone in your shoe, you realize how uncomfortable that is. So the whole idea is to bring us into a more peaceful condition. The gameplay has that function, he said, to bring us into this understanding of the three wise men, the thinking, speaking, and acting, because this is where the soul takes its apparent cue from, or its behavior from, in a way, and manifests as we see. You can make the gold or materials, or you can create your own demise in a way, creating certain conditions with within your own universe. And that's all apparently based on emotions. We learned a little bit about emotions in the 636, and the weakest emotion of all is the line that connects to the creator. As we've heard in the past, the creator is small, weak, and a giver. So this is what was demonstrated in Beijing, where we saw the interaction of the fields. We didn't see them when they were femto, and we didn't see them on the next step up, pico, and we probably didn't see them in the next step up from that, I believe, which is the nano, but we certainly saw the creation of materials once it reached the milli level, I guess perhaps we'd call it, or maybe further. But this is the whole same development of the creation. Rather than going from the large in division, it's more of combination and combining from the small up. So not only was he showing us how our structure works for wellness, but also the creation of materials out of what people would say is thin air. But as he said in this workshop, mankind has just started to talk about magnetic fields and this sort of thing in the very, very recent period. And it's coming more and more into play. As we know, the energy equals E equals mc squared. There's no speed of light in this whole thing. It's energy equals matter. It's just if you know how to trigger it or change a strength of cosmic rays, you create a new dimension out of the same entity. Of course, I am not capable of doing that other than within my own structure or my own maggrav structure. And all of you have your maggrav set by the creator as I do. So it's a matter of us opening it up. And this is the whole, in a way, aspect of what Mr. Keshe is trying to bring us to realize that we're the savior of ourselves in a way. And this is what Christ tried to point out, but apparently it got quite mixed up along the way, because if they told you you could do this, perhaps you wouldn't get your pocket and your soul cashed out in a way. And apparently they all behave in a very similar manner. But no problem. We have times and periods of the day and the night where we elevate souls in need or souls that are low. That's part of creating the Dome of Peace. But before we go any further, I think we should read the World Peace Treaty. And that sort of reconfirms our ethos in a way. Again, we're introducing a new science, the science of creation, a new ethos. The idea of serving the others is more important than serving yourself, but of course not to neglect yourself. And then, of course, the idea of a new language. And I think this is the language of humbleness and giving and sharing. And of course, we have a lot of terms in the plasma technology that are new languages, as we've seen in a number of countries that didn't even have words for certain things or descriptions of what we use as nomenclature within the Keshe Foundation. But this is the World Peace Treaty, and it's all about finding peace within yourself first, not so much the others or later on the others. So the bigger struggle is to create that peaceful universe. Remember, man exists and operates in the universe, and the universe exists and operates within the man. And of course, when we go into this dimension of energy, we want a peaceful universe. And again, I think that dimension of energy is right between your ears. Again, with the mayonnaise of hydrogen as the brain and the central energies of the soul of the man. And of course, we heard in this recent workshop that the soul of the man is actually the hardware, and the emotion is the software. So the software actually tells the hardware what to do, doesn't it? But this is our World Peace Treaty. And again, with this network of cosmic rays, in a way, every entity has already been touched because we're soft targets, like from the 3i and interactions of the sun, but we're continuing to be touched by cosmic rays within what's been developed by the Keshe Foundation. Again, and he said the game is made to bring you to this ethos. The more you play, the more the ethos of thinking, speaking, and acting good sinks in. I'm not there, and I've got a ways to go, but that's my wish of trying to achieve a more perfect creation, let's say, because we were all created to be perfect. And of course, we're not there, and that was part of this whole teaching of 636, that we're becoming a pain in the bun, or have been, with the creator. Is it a kidney stone, or is it just a stone in the shoe of the creator? Or just as he said, the emotions we're generating here are peppering the entire universe with these fields. So apparently, even though we thought we weren't significant or we were insignificant, thus apparently this beacon that we're sending out from this planet is in a way persona non grata and has to be dealt with the same way the elephant has to get the stone out of the foot, or if you have a kidney stone and pain in passing it. But hopefully we can do this pain-free, but we'll have to see. Sometimes man needs to go through that to come out the other side, as this suffering can lead to enlightenment as well. But that's the hard way to go, and I'm preferring we all go the easy way. So that was a little intro, I suppose, to this whole idea. And of course, the world peace is only to get us into the next level of interactions, which is with the universal community. And you want to be peaceful in the matter state with them, I believe. And you also want to be peaceful with them in that dimension of energy, or that universe that you carry with you, and you can interact on that level as well. So this is the World Peace Treaty. Again, something the world leaders will sign, not necessarily with a pen, but the pen of their soul. When you go into the universe, or you'll never see anything written. I don't think there's anything written in our brains or between our ears either. Again, I continually think this is the universe or the space that we need to create to be peaceful. Would anyone like to read the World Peace Treaty? I'll read it. We, as citizens of the earth from this moment on, accept to lay down all tools of aggression and war. We shall never think about getting involved or incite war or develop or use any tools of war on this planet or in space. And to this we all agree and swear with our, and you can delete as appropriate, our nation, our territory, our council, our religion, our city, our town, our body, and our soul or souls. Simply put your name there, and again, have it witnessed. And after signing this treaty, be proud to display this certificate wherever you consider being important to you, that everyone can see and know your ethos to fellow men and the mankind and other created beauties of the Creator. And as I said, you don't need to sign this necessarily. You can sign it with the pen of your soul. So does that mean since you haven't signed it, you can't display it? I think, again, you'll display it through your thinking, speaking, and acting. And this is where our aggressiveness sits. And this is what I think the entire system is doing, is in a way tuning the brain to think, speak, and act correctly. And the soul takes that cue. As I've said a number of times, we think many, many more times than we speak, and we speak many, many more times than we act. So I think this is where that war scene is sort of laid out, because sometimes you get compulsive in thinking about a certain issue or something that's been someone else offended you with, or you offended someone else with, and this becomes quite something to deal with on the emotional level. And this is where we need to bring peace within ourselves. And it actually has many physical benefits as well, like lower blood pressure and other sort of things that happen within your own structure. So it's very important. And again, peace treaty, not only with other men, but with all of the love of creation. And we call it the love of creation when it's actually taken a form in the matter state, when the energies have been made into a soul with central energies that have emotions, can reproduce, and has an intellect and a soul, of course. So this is where the respect, not the Creator made man in his image, but we also say the Creator made the entire creation in his own image. But it's going through an upgrade, because apparently this is not the only nursery in the universe that has some of these issues of killing and being destructive. So let's, anyone want to add anything? I don't want to continue speaking if someone else would like to. Okay, so what I think we'll do is we're going to go back to 2022, about May, and we're going to actually, we'll put this in the chat later on once Alex comes in, and then we'll perhaps go to the announcements and a couple questions, but we can also listen to the teaching a little bit. Again, very, very good and universal examples of how our structure works. He's trying to put it or make the spoon as small as possible to, in a way, feed us this knowledge in so many ways to reach our understanding and transfer of this knowledge. So this was something that happened after what we call tests within enhancement units, and people that have had different experiences of being put into a cosmic ray environment of different strengths, and based on your wish, of course, creates a new dimension where we saw people imagining themselves to be on the moon and also being in the physicality simultaneously as we saw the physicality moving. So it was almost like that energy dimension. And this is where the creator lives in that. If you want to go into space and bring your physicality, you're certainly going to have to go in a craft of some sort. But if you can use the energy dimension, you can travel instantaneously. Or there's a way of using a combination of both. But the craft in space is going to be subject to a lot of disintegration and problems without proper or maintained shielding and the rest of this. So you could go into space that way, but I think the preferable and the quickest way, as we said, it took 3 months to go around the sun. So if you're going to go to planet Zeus, that's in a way, 1,000. You may not arrive there by traveling in an actual craft. They're fast, but the universe is so large that the transmutation is, as we understand, this is the way the creator travels. And of course, if the ones in the UFOs and other craft understood how the creator traveled, we call it transmutation. It's an instantaneous idea, and this is what we're talking about here. Those entities would not be in a spaceship. So even though they have huge power over magnetic fields, they haven't gotten back to the mother or to the creator, if we could put it that way. So I think this is, I believe it's May of 2022. We're going to hear first of because today is a day of, and again, we say forgiveness and the forgiveness of sins and all that, but at one point in time we heard, I don't forgive and I don't forget. And we could explain that a little bit more, perhaps later or in another location. And as I said, whatever you do belongs to you. You put it in one of the knapsacks, you're responsible for it. No punishment. But they're there for you to learn a correct behavior, as I see it. So let's go back to this, and it starts out about the question. I think this is from Dr. Kern, actually, and he's asking about the collective guilt of the German nation and because of what happened with the Nazis and everything. And then there'll be a question introduced about the crucifixion and the resurrection and the rest. And of course, this was just one location. Mr. Keshe has taught about this. And there's a number of things in the private archives as well as in the public. And of course, the Brazil team had brought up some important things as well. Perhaps I'll bring that up. And maybe I should do that right now before I forget. Any comments from anyone? Let's just bring up the Brazil has the Portuguese language community has a very detailed search engine as well as different platforms. I'm just looking for this from Raphael. And of course, they're instrumental in many things. Let's just bring this up on YouTube. I don't think we're going to use it today, but just in case Alex perhaps needs a little bit more time, let me bring this down. And I haven't searched this, so just, I'll just do a quick sort of look through here. Yeah, I think it's more down here. But anyway, I'm not going to search that right now. Stop that. Remember, Windows open. Okay, anything anyone want to add about the workshop? I mean, there are just so many pieces of information Mr. Keshe shared with us here. And I think he mentioned emotions about 72 times in this workshop. So there's a lot there, but let's go to this German one if we can. And again, since this is the day where Christ showed and I never realized this really, even though I knew Christ did transfigurations and did many other things, this was the actual key to what he taught. And I had always wondered when I had read the Bible and I heard about the story of the cave, and it said when Mary or whoever came there, they didn't recognize Christ. And then he told her stories of where they had been and what they had done in the past. And even though he didn't look like his former self, she said to him, "You are the Christ." And now that whole puzzle for me came together because I never realized that it was a different look he took on when they put him in the cave as he appeared, but then transmuted and appeared differently because they knew they were pursuing him in a way. So that sort of solved that puzzle. Yes, Gail, let's make you co-host, no problem. So that solved a riddle for me, how she didn't recognize him. And then when he told her some things, because I don't think it says that in the Bible, but this is what we understand from the teachings. And this confirmed to her only that soul would actually know those details. So even though the person looked different, as we say, in the transmutation, it's the same soul as you had as a man or whatever else you came from, just in a different configuration, let's say, or a different look or a different color of eyes or color of hair or skin color and the rest. This is what we call the transmutation. And if you can learn this game, you've gained an aspect of immortality. And we're just sort of waking up to this energy dimension of some of the things that we have right within our own hand that we all thought in the West were some far reaching. We had to sort of be granted this, but we just granted to ourselves once we start to understand it, or once we're being made aware of it, we start to contemplate it and perhaps apply it to ourselves. Okay, so let's hear this. There's going to be a German translation as well in here, so just be patient with it. But again, my thinking is there's some German or perhaps something is needed for this to be played in German. And I know it was, I couldn't find this particular recording, but I did. Someone helped me to find it. Thank you, Hannah. And I think this is the way we're going to proceed, and then we'll go into the 636. But yes, this was the day in a way of enlightenment, that we have the knowledge within us. It's just we haven't been able to tap into it, but we're carrying the totality of the creation within our own structure. And we've been made to think that it's somewhere else, it's out there. You have to be good or bad. And as Mr. Keshe said, you can still live an active physical life. You don't have to become a monk or a priest, or, well, maybe not a priest, but you know what I mean, sort of cloistered somewhere. You still live an active life, but can still live a life of giving and serving, I believe, without killing and destruction. And again, these are the technologies that are going to get introduced slowly, step by step. But this is the transmutation. This is the way he put it at this point in time. So you may hear it put slightly differently even in this recent workshop about, as he said, you can call it transmutation or resurrection, it's you can use whatever word you want for it, but resurrection and transmutation is a bit different. But they apparently understand it, and I'm still trying to work through it. So if you have any thoughts on this, please stop the recording and share with us your understanding of what's being spoken here. Welcome, Carolyn. I see you've just come in. We're just going to play the German. I think you just came in. Yes, I was just going to say, we're just going to play something from 22 with the transmutation Q&A sessions. These were where people shared their experience. And as I said, there's no peer review in the Keshe Foundation. And of course, that leads to a lot of stifling of knowledge, as we saw when the church was the peer reviewer and Galileo wanted them to take a peek into his telescope. And they didn't want to look into his telescope because that broke down the whole sort of myth that was created about everything went around the earth. So when the church was the peer review, they definitely stifled much knowledge. And that's why we believe what people say in the Keshe Foundation and what they report to experience. So here we go. Feel free to stop at any time. I don't have a transcript for this one.
Any other question?
Okay, let me see. No, I don't think so. These are some other questions that are not really relevant. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's something new here. That's from Dr. Kern.
We don't know, Dr. Kern. Yes, what's the question?
It's a little bit more text. He's asking if you can tell us more about the German-speaking part in the peace process. That our culture is deeply traumatized by the Nazi, history, and if there is something that is this, if there's a connection, and how does that fit together with the plasma development?
I don't understand.
Yes, it's actually in English here as well, and I translated German. Okay, he says, Mr. Keshe, can you tell us more about the role of the German-speaking community in the peace process? Our culture and social life is deeply traumatized by the Nazi crimes. Is there a connection with the background? How do we relate to the development of plasma technology?
If I can be very blunt,
please.
Keshe Foundation headquarters sits where more or less Hitler started. We do not look at the way you look at the Germany. To me, a German, an Austrian, an English is all the same. It's you who has to forget about the past and make a new way for the future. What's gone past is past. You can't change it. And the only way, it's a memory, it's not an energy. And it's something nobody can change. We cannot change memories. We cannot change whatever has happened in the past. And Germany and Austria are one of the most successful nations in the West. So it's too far back but maybe one thing which I've said before, maybe the plasma technology will become another industrial revolution coming out of Germany to pave the past, what was done to change, because it brings with it peace. And that's the only thing you can do.
Mhm. Okay, das war die Frage, die hatte ich eben schon vorgelesen, das ist Bezug auf unsere kulturelle Geschichte und die Nazi-Verbrechen und ob es einen Zusammenhang gibt und unsere Aufgabe. Und Herr Keshe sagt, er ist sehr, sehr direkt, hat er gesagt, dass Hitlers Beginn war da, wo jetzt das Keshe Foundation Hauptquartier ist, also quasi Linz. Und er sagte, wir müssen die Vergangenheit vergessen. Er sagt, für ihn gibt es keinen Unterschied zwischen Deutschen und Österreichern und Engländern. Wir sollen Platz schaffen für die Zukunft. Es ist ein Gedächtnis, eine Erinnerung und keine Energie. Und wir können die Vergangenheit nicht ändern. Und er sagte, dass Deutschland und Österreich zwei der erfolgreichsten Länder in Westeuropa sind. Und das, was passieren könnte, ist, dass wir eine nächste industrielle Revolution in Deutschland bzw. deutschsprachigen Raum sehen, der dann den Wandel oder beziehungsweise den Frieden bringt. Okay, there's another question from Dr. Kern.
Okay, I thought I'd just share that as some comfort because these populations have carried quite a burden and have been stigmatized. But as Mr. Keshe said, you carry it with you to learn in a way. And we need to forget about that past. And again, we hear this even today where we see the same sort of operations going on with genocide and so towards other, and we've been quite silent in supporting in the United States of this whole process we've seen in Gaza and throughout the Middle East. We're actually perpetuating it. So I hope we don't come to that sort of way that the world looks at the United States. But again, we're a major purveyor of this constant conflict of war, but not the only. As we understand within the foundation, in the last 3,000 years, there's been 5,000 wars on this planet and all the other destruction that's gone along with it. So let's go into the actual transmutation part here and the way Mr. Keshe sort of spoke. And as he said, sometimes the soul comes back and actually wakes up the physicality. Didn't we see that with the pig testing that he mentioned just a workshop or two ago? And in Europe, they had this system apparently where they used to leave people on a table, as he'll say, and sometimes they actually came back. Or if they buried them, and I guess if they had the resources, they would run a hollow pipe into the casket and attach a string and a bell on the outside above ground. And because apparently they've dug up some caskets and people actually were trying to dig out of their own caskets. So they had this system of a bell with a string. And this is what Mr. Keshe said. This used to be a practice when they put people underground, that sometimes it was the final bell. And if they heard the bell ringing, they would actually dig them up. So this is the part that he's explaining here, that Christ didn't actually die on the cross. He appeared to be dead, and the soul came back and did a transmutation in a way. So feel free to stop it and explain your understanding of this whole process. And again, this is just one instance of where Mr. Keshe described what most of the Christians missed. And of course, we're all paying the price, those who are still getting their pockets and their souls cashed out due to a lack of knowledge. And that's part of the work of the Keshe Foundation, that no one gets abused due to the lack of knowledge. And of course, he's been quite emphatic about this idea of intermediaries not needing any here on this planet or anywhere in the universe, as you become the, in a way, savior of yourself, if you understand some of this knowledge. And again, I'm not there, so don't think I'm preaching it to you. I'm just sharing my understanding and hopefully understand more.
And this time I read the English one. In Christianity, there is the last judgment and the resurrection, when we will be able, via plasma fields, to expand the human soul in such a way that the soul of physicality, and thus physicality, is absorbed by the essence of existence. There will be no more physical death. On the other hand, the deceased must not return to physicality, at least not via the unit. What is the overall context here? Long question.
I understand what Dr. Kern is trying to explain. If you understand how plasma works and how it interacts, then it's easy to understand resurrection is impossibility. When we call resurrection is when the soul of physicality and the physicality of the man and the soul of the man have separated, and the physicality disintegrated. There is a difference between death, when the physicality is disintegrated and gone, than transportation or transmutation of physicality with the soul of the man. Because when you travel with the soul of the man and you embrace the soul of physicality, the physicality become part of it, the physicality is not destroyed. So never needs to be resurrected. But if you speak about resurrection as doing Christianity or other religions, they try to elaborate on it. The physical part has been eaten, has been disintegrated into other animals or the ground or whatever. You can resurrect the soul, but you cannot resurrect the physicality because physicality. But at the same time, when you extend the soul to cover the physicality, then you don't die. It's part of the same. It's a very clear cut, and that's why we say you cannot bring the Father back to live with you, because the dimension of physicality which created him is not there. You can regenerate yourself as another being on moon because you carry that soul of physicality with you. The soul of physicality is separated from the soul of the man at the point of death, and with the physicality. You can create a vision of the Father the way you do in your dream, but you cannot physically bring the Father back because the soul of physicality, what we call the spirit, is disconnected from the physicality which was connected to it. It's a very clear understanding. The resurrection is impossibility, but transportation, and embodiment of the physicality in the soul of the man and vice versa, because it's still the same, it's never been separated, is possible.
So Christ did not die in physicality?
Did he?
And if he was resurrected, then
Did
he didn't die.
Did he?
Apparently
He
not.
didn't die. He did not die on the cross. He walked away with his soul, and then he took another dimension in physicality and walked off. I've explained this in very detail before. It's what you will do. Let me explain to you the near. Do you want to translate, and then I explain to you something else?
Yes. Okay.
Oh, welcome, I hope you had a nice island hopping trip. We were just playing something about the collective guilt of the Germans and the Austrians. Mr. Keshe offered some comfort there, but welcome back in so many ways. Anyone want to make any comments so far? Again, just the way the Big Bang Theory is sort of, they're putting a few holes in it, what they showed you in Beijing. The same with this idea of Christ dying on the cross. Apparently it's a different way of seeing it, and for different reasons. But if we're all made in the image of the Creator, we should have the ability, if we understand this in time, how we can gain an aspect of immortality by playing off the energy dimension against the matter state. Remember, we start as energy into matter and back to energy. E equals n without the c squared, I suppose. I guess that's the speed of light he said was not part of this. So that's the whole cycle. And of course, he used the bracelet to explain that, and even further with these diamonds and so on bracelets. So very beautiful. And again, we're all trying to, in a way, reflect, at least that's my wish. I'm not there, but I want to reflect more of the light and the knowledge of the creation. Okay, let's continue this.
Okay. Also es ist eine längere Frage. Die Frage ist, im Christentum gibt es das jüngste Gericht und die Auferstehung. Wenn wir über Plasmafelder in der Lage sein werden, die Seele des Menschen so auszuweiten, dass die Seele der Physikalität und damit die Körperlichkeit von der Essenz des Daseins aufgenommen wird, gibt es keinen physischen Tod mehr. Andererseits dürfen die Verstorbenen nicht in die Körperlichkeit zurück, zumindest nicht über die Einheit. Wie ist hier die Gesamtzusammenhang? Und was Herr Keshe hier unter anderem zu sagte, ist, dass wenn man das versteht, wie das Plasma funktioniert, dann weiß man das. Er sagte, Wiederauferstehung in dem Sinne ist nicht möglich, also in dem Sinne, wenn der Körper wirklich tot ist. Weil die Seele und der Körper sind miteinander verbunden, und wenn das getrennt ist, dann ist der Körper tot, er fängt an, sich aufzulösen, zu verfaulen und so weiter. Und dann ist eine Wiederauferstehung nicht möglich. Und dementsprechend sagt er auch, dass Christus am Kreuz nicht gestorben ist, sondern er seine Körperlichkeit mit der Seele mitgenommen hat. Und da sagt er eben, das ist anders in dem Prozess, was eben die Transmutation und Transportation genannt wird, dass da ist der Körper Teil des Prozesses. Also der Körper wird von der Seele umhüllt, also Seele ist nicht mehr im Körper, sondern Körper in der Seele. Und dann kann man damit auch reisen, und damit kann man sich dann auch an einem anderen Ort zum Beispiel auch den Körper neu regenerieren. Also dann ist sozusagen alles möglich, solange die Körperlichkeit-Seele-Verbindung noch vorhanden ist. Okay, thank you.
Was that translation good? Are there any German speakers here that can confirm? I'm sure it was. But if you know anyone who speaks German, share this with them. It may touch them in a certain way. Somehow I was prompted to find this and play this today. We continue. There's more.
Yep.
I believe there's more.
We now understand, by the knowledge we have, you can be looked at, but you're not dead. In Europe, you had a tradition, part of Europe, that you leave the dead, but they used to leave the dead body on a table for a day or two, because sometimes people used to wake up, come back. Do they resurrect?
That's what people call brain dead, right? When people are not actually dead, when it's still called brain dead.
But it has been traditionally in Europe is very common, because they call it the last spell. People used to put people in graves, and then they put a string and a bell outside. If they wake up, they can ring the bell. Somebody goes and dig them out. In respect to crucifixion of Christ, is the same. But the soul of Christ left the body, but never separated from the body. When you brought the body down and you placed it, he came back to the body. Is what we teach you now, what the system you come to Linz will do for you. And then understanding the way we tell you that when you go to Mars, you look different. You can go from manifest yourself in New York as a white blue, and then manifest yourself in Africa as a black, brown, tall guy. Now it's possible. We know how it's done. And we clearly saw it in the crisis with Corona in China, with the doctors who changed. So what Christ did, he did not separate his soul from the soul of his head, because he was still physically, he was still alive. He was a still body in function. But the soul became separated. And when the soul came back to the body, to the union, or to be it again together, whatever you call it, coming back from a dream, he was aware of his embodiment. They knew who he is. He changed himself. And he walked off. You call it resurrection. Scientifically, it can be done. We can explain it fully now. If we put you under certain pressures or certain condition, while we are watching you, you will see it happen in the enhancement units. You will change color. You will change the desire to what color of eye or skin you will have. Christ never died on the cross. But when he came back, the soul came back to the body, he was aware that they won't let him stay alive. With knowledge or with what he had as a power, he changed and he walked off all the way to what we call the Maltese and back onto the Spain and France border. We've seen it, we have the knowledge, and many of you can repeat it. This is why we explain it scientifically. The strength of the soul of the man and the strength of the soul of physicality, any changes in them will change manifestation of physicality. You can do it in one generation, you can do it instantaneously. Now we know that the knowledge is very, very clear. And soon many of you in the enhancement units learning it, you go to Jamaica, you enjoy the way they speak, they dance, they eat, you change yourself to Jamaican. It's now, we know it can be done, and there is a system for it to do it if you want it. So resurrection is understanding it as it's impossibility, because you cannot, if the body and soul of physicality is separate, yes.
Okay. Herr Keshe sagte, dass man tot aussehen kann, es aber nicht unbedingt ist. Und das ist etwas, also ein längeres Thema. Also er sagte, Tote können nicht wieder auferstehen, aber das ist die Frage, was wir als tot halten. Und viele werden als tot gezählt, auch man nennt das klinisch auch Hirntod. Und da gibt es auch Fälle, wo man weiß, dass diese Leute wieder auferstanden sind, also einfach wieder aufgewacht sind. Und das liegt einfach daran, weil sie gar nicht tot waren. Also das ist eigentlich der ursprüngliche Punkt. Und deswegen hat man früher, und in vielen Kulturen ist es heute immer noch so, dass man die Leiche nicht gleich begräbt oder verbrennt, sondern dass man die erstmal ein paar Tage irgendwo zeremoniell aufbewahrt. Weil immer davon ausgegangen wird, dass es sein kann, dass jemand so selbst nach ein paar Tagen wieder wach wird, also wieder aufsteht. Und das heißt einfach nur, dass er, wie gesagt, gar nicht tot war. Und dann sagt der Keshe, was man sich auch unterschiedliches Aussehen annehmen kann, je nachdem, wo man sich manifestiert. Und dann sagt er, dass Christus war noch am Leben am Kreuz und er ist dann fortgegangen. Und also die Seele ging fort und das kam dann zurück und das ist eher wie in einem Traum. Und als er zurückgekehrt ist, da hat er sich den Körper geändert, weil er sonst weiter auch verfolgt worden wäre. Also er musste anders aussehen, weil man sonst ihn hätte einfach wieder umbringen wollen. Und dann sagt der Keshe, dass man in dieser Einheit auch seine Hautfarbe zum Beispiel und andere Charakteristik ändern kann. Und das kann also sofort passieren, das muss also nicht lange dauern. Man kann also so eine Veränderung entweder über eine Generation durchmachen, aber auch sofort. Und dann sagt er noch, dass Christus ist an die französische Grenze gegangen, also nachdem er wieder, so wie wir sagen, wieder auferstanden ist, hat er halt noch weitergelebt. Das ist dann das weniger bekannte Teil von ihm. Und dann sagt der Keshe, wenn man zum Beispiel die jamaikanische Kultur sehr gerne mag, dann könnte es sein, dass man sich und man diesen Wunsch hat, dass man aussieht wie ein Jamaikaner, spricht wie ein Jamaikaner, also die Sprache mit Emotionen, allem drum und dran, dass man das annimmt. Also es ist immer die Frage, was in einem selbst halt der Wunsch ist. Mr. Keshe, then,
Okay, hopefully that's meant for some German speakers. Again, English or German, but somehow I think a German person or a group are going to get touched by this at some point in the future, hopefully, as it's a game of the soul. So that's why I brought this. Was the German okay, anyone? I'm sure it was. Thank you, Mario, and thank you, Mr. Keshe. All right, perhaps we'll go back to the announcements. I think this is, Mr. Keshe had mentioned so many things in the 634. I just have taken a number of different notes. He even talked about a new fertilizer being developed. Just give them a little bit more time. And of course, many other things we'll hear in the announcements. So I think we should go to the announcements. And of course, again, the opening video is the formation of the Universal Council, which is it's about an 8-minute video as well. But let's see if we can go to the announcements. I'm not sure exactly. I didn't set anything for this up to this point. We'll just find where Rick plays this. And I don't want to play this because there's some sort of music issue if you have a monetized website, but that particular video would cause some distress to your website apparently because of the music. But if it's not monetized, it's not a problem. But we'll just leave it here. Now again, Mr. Keshe is reaching out to artisans or specialists in any sort of field. He said they have hundreds of products to be developed or something. And again, these products that you're writing in about, if it fits at this point in time into their larger structure, you'll be contacted. If not, it may fit in at a future time. So don't be unhappy that you didn't get a response or you think no one is acknowledging it. It just may not fit in at this point in time. But as we know, every product and in a way, every service will be touched by this knowledge in the coming decades, probably, I would say, as this is a much slower process. But let's just hear the announcements. We can go back to the store. We can show the game, invite people to the transmission sessions, and so on.
Okay, we are back again at the 636th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, April 2nd, 2026. And as it's the second part, as I mentioned, we will have the opportunity to ask questions. And but first, Mr. Keshe will have a few things to say, and then we'll engage into the question part.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As we made an announcement before, and we had some responses from you knowledge seekers. We are looking for those of you who are developing or developed or want to commercialize part of the Keshe Foundation technology, which we see appropriate. We are prepared to look at, and please keep on sending your what you call innovation and inventions, and we look into it and how we can use it and how it can be commercialized as you as a partner of it. We have accommodation for hundreds of new innovations to be developed, and we will be able to discuss in detail with you in coming weeks as we see we received a number of requests or what you call innovations for development.
Anyone want to put out any ideas here of anything they'd like to see, even if you don't want to develop it yourself, or anything you'd like to see come in? Just bring it out into the open. again, I'm sure it'll be under a non-disclosure agreement if it's commercialized using plasma technology. But any sort of general ideas? I was thinking of copper utensils and water containers to go along with that unit that Mr. Keshe said you could have a unit the size of a microwave and not have to put any copper in it and create copper utensils or copper drinking cups or water flasks and so on. So that was one. Another one I was thinking of was the air filtration in many of the buildings, commercial buildings, and even residential buildings, where you could create a better environment in the common areas and in the offices by eliminating the sick building syndrome and impregnating materials into the fibers of these filters. I think that would have a far-reaching effect. And of course, the loss in sick building syndrome is quite extensive. It's in the billions of dollars per year, probably even hundreds of billions around the world. I'm not sure. But that was just a couple of simple innovations I had thought of. Anyone have any sort of innovations they'd like to see? You can just put it out into the public. Maybe someone else will pick it up or take your idea and sort of run with it. I guess you're all developing sort of things and don't want to share it at this point in time. Okay, we'll go back.
Please be more precise than just a drawing or a product as a picture, and explain in more detail what you think is needed, what facilities you need, and then we can take it more into detail in how we analyze. I'll put 3 or 4 people going through your, what you call, requests and emails and messages you send us.
And of course, you know, competition is quite strong in many sort of industries, and twinning your technology, let's say you're already making certain items, twinning it with the plasma technology may set you apart from the rank and file, so to speak. So if you know someone's in manufacturing and they're finding it tough, but the product does sell, they could really get a leg up in a way for a short period of time, maybe even longer. I don't know. And of course, it would be marketed around the Keshe Foundation websites and probably traded on the game of peace and enlightenment. That's part of its operation, is to have a marketplace that things can be, in a way, as an association, can be bought and sold as a club or an association. So many, many potentials in the future.
Please send everything to info@keshe.foundation, and that we can look into it and find out in more detail what it is. Don't send it all over just because you have a connection with us, sending it to Telegram points. It doesn't go that way. Please keep it that way, that I can pass it on to the right people to analyze it. It won't be happening overnight. It'll take weeks. And then we come back to you and we'll do the same. As I said, we are looking for a number of different things. We're looking for those who are deeply involved in Keshe Foundation technology teaching. This is not just looking, we are looking to bring you in as guiding the educated people, teachers, in how to translate, to bring the knowledge of the Keshe Foundation teaching from basic to university level. We don't want you to teach. We want to be, in a way, advisors what needs to be taught. And the way you see, we have education group, we've done this all a lot. This, what we're setting up, is a national school structure. We have some 18 months to complete, and we are looking in conjunction with the national structure to set up the first 18 months to 18 years teaching, included in the present curriculum understanding. So we're looking with those of you who understand not only making Ganses, the ethos behind upon the work, the advanced technology which technology brings. We are looking people to guide the teachers curriculum, what needs to be done. A lot of this has been done. We go back into it and bring these out. Our education group are there. But we're looking those of you who have come out, or you can advise us in a way, not advise us, advise the teaching groups how to set up the structures. This is the first national school structure which we are getting involved in, and we want it to be correct. Not necessarily everything will be perfect from day one, but we learn how do we teach what is the effect of plasma technology to a 3-year-old. What can they see? One can, a 13-year-old.
I was trying to think how we would start to teach young children. Maybe it would be up to the mother in a way because of the contact, but how would you teach a 18-month-old or a 3-year-old child about plasma technology? Anyone have any thoughts they'd like to share? Welcome, Mike. How would we teach a small child, both matter state and energy dimension, starting at a very early age?
It's I don't know if you can hear me. Am I clear on the line?
Perfect, Gail.
Good. I just think when I think of a small child, they imitate the older children. And I spoke a bit about a young girl. She's around 14, and she does comics, but not funny. She has realistic drawings of her classmates or friends, and she picks a particular value judgment that people will make about another person, and she shows how to solve it. And it really strikes me the way that the beautiful drawings she does of the people, and she wants to make the young people proud of who they are, because sometimes they try to imitate other groups if they don't feel that they are, as good as other people, that kind of thing. So if you have someone like that, I mean that's more at the family or maybe even, I'm thinking of Ireland. I was invited to go to the pub, and the grandfather and the parents and the little children, everybody went to the pub and we danced. With the youngest, it was like every part of the family, every age group was there. So I'm not sure if that's a way, the way that people interact in their culture and so on. And that young girl, wow, I think she could actually be part of helping little ones, I'm just a thought that's just came to me. And there's probably a whole scenario that we can build, all the different ways that we can go about it. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, imagine if she went into space and again has an art capability, could draw some of the beings or entities she perhaps interacted with. This is what's going to happen.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people are going to start to see some of these. And of course, Mr. Keshe mentioned this quite a bit when he talked about the children of Mitra and how they're created out of energies. And we actually have the capability right now to start that process. So it's just an amazing week after week revelation about our own structure and how simple it is, but yet the complexities of it as well. But it's your system is perfectly set by the creator or by the creation in so many ways, even though the environment needs a bit of adjustment and it's affected our emotions and our behavior as well. But as I said earlier, we were chosen to be perfect, and this is what part of this universal teacher interjecting or coming in and waking us up to this idea. There were so many things that were discussed in this workshop. Let's continue to finish at least the announcements.
I'm working a 23-year-old.
And what I wanted to say when we were talking about that German Q&A for the unit, and of course, Mr. Keshe said the Christians missed the transmutation. This is what Christ said, and didn't I always read, and these things you, Christ is Christ's words, and these things you will do that I do, and even greater things. And I could never figure that out. How could we do greater things than Christ did? But again, I don't think we have all the understanding yet. But he certainly was able to save himself in so many ways. And of course, that story of going to northern France or northern Spain, southern France, I think was quite accurate. As we'll find out more about this, I think, in the future, as there's much more to reveal about that particular bloodline and some of the work that perhaps was done or teaching was done there. People actually used to visit Christ from where he was or where he was crucified, and even traveled to Spain, southern France, as I understand it. So there's much more to reveal and go much deeper in every subject. Okay. And of course, we put in the chat, info@keshe.foundation is where to contact for any artisan, specialist, blockchain on the computer. They need those engineers, teachers, and so on. Alex, I hope you'll still have a job after this opens up. I'm sure you will, as we're all part of this, carrying a very small corner of a very large carpet. So many beautiful things are going to open up to humanity, and we're just sort of being staged in a way to be able to deliver a little bit more about what we understand when this period comes. It's here, but I think, as he said, we're not quite ready for the flood of people that are going to be investigating and trying to understand this knowledge for themselves. We're here to, in a way, support and help and share what we understand, and not actually tell them what to do, but just share how we've been and what we've experienced. And I think they can then take it within their own structure and use that.
Person C, to follow it up, to teach both sides, the matter and energy together. Our teaching of today is all matter. How we want to bring a new generation that teaches the matter and energy together. As I said to the head of the education structure which we are working with, we want to teach the other side, the energy side. And we are prepared to give scholarship, and students can work with our laboratories inside every aspect to see it firsthand. Depends what they're interested in. And in a way, as we said, what you have developed, we would like to be part of it. These students, these young people will come with you to learn what you learned, what you've done, what you developed, that they can develop something new on it. We have all the facilities and the environment for this getting set up. And we are already in it. We have taken possession of our premises and we are working. We are not looking for time wasters. We're looking for people who can set the knowledge for the next generation. If there are any questions, we try to answer about this, but we need people who have a full clarity about teaching, sharing the knowledge that it can be understood by a structure of people from 18 to PhD in different ways of us teaching it. For those who work with us full time, everything will be facilitated, that you don't come on your own. If it's a team of you, you can bring your team. If it is with your family, we accommodate the whole lot.
What he's referring to, I believe, here is one of the most advanced research centers on the planet in space technology. This is where he's saying your family will be looked after, educated. It's a very well appointed, probably past 5-star hotel status. And this is where much of the research, and as he said, hundreds of products are ready to be developed. And of course, you may meet some artisans and other things, and the blockchain people. But as he said, with the blockchain, you can actually do that from your own home to help with this game of peace and enlightenment. Let's continue. Any thoughts, comments, questions, or sharing?
The structure is set to support this, and it won't happen by accident. It happens by design, and we are setting up on this especially for that purpose. If there are any questions, we try to answer, but please have in mind the time to bring the technology has started. We are already in it. We are not going to do it. It's just that we can add you as another string in what I call guitar of the music of this technology.
So that was very nice. We can add you as another string in the quote unquote guitar of the music of this technology. And that's another way of putting we're all carrying a very small corner of a very large carpet, as we've heard before. Welcome, Micah. I thought I'd play your question here. I think he was trying to get to Francesca, but then you came in because she couldn't open her mic. Anything you want to say about your question? Or I know you've been putting some very nice questions to Mr. Keshe, and we thank you for that. But anything, again, here we talking about the children of Mitra, could be born through a physicality, or could be, some parents apparently will have both. And this is the way creation happens in the universe. Even we talk about the Chinese marrying the black or whatever, but he said this is what's happening between civilizations and been going on for millennia in the universe, where different civilizations found that rather than hooking up physically, they hook up on the energy level and create a new dimension of creation in a way, and new creatures. And we call this the children of Mitra.
Thank you, Mark. I've just been trying to open new teachings with each of the questions and kind of adding from the last ones. So thank you very much.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. I think you've helped enlighten us all, or perhaps again, this is a game of the souls. There's a reason you've brought these questions up most of the time, I think. So let's just go into this. Again, it's more about ourselves. We're looking outside to get something, but we need to look more inside since we're carrying everything. It's just we haven't tapped into it. But we're still using it in many ways, even creating conditions with us that aren't healthy in so many ways. So we want to move in the other direction. But let's hear this about this new way of and creating new dimensions within the universe as is already being done. And again, it's not through the physical act, it's more through the interaction of fields. So these new children who are going to be taught at this research center, and maybe it'll be open to those in the association, where you could, I remember at one time, Mr. Keshe said, there's a method and there's a way to structure this knowledge to teach it, not so correctly, but there's sort of a step-by-step process that would help us reach it a little bit sooner, perhaps. There's a methodology, and I don't know, we never revealed that exactly, but that will be part of this generalized teaching, I think. Unless it's just only for those at the research center, but I don't think so. This is part of the teachers and the rest to guide in a bigger sort of, again, from PhD down to a kindergarten or 3-year-old. So these citizens, people will have quite an in-depth knowledge from the get-go, rather than wait till you're 50, 60, or 70 and starting approaching this knowledge. But either way, no soul has a corner on knowledge, and I think a lot of it has to do with you just wanting to understand more. And it comes. If you believe it, you bring it. Either a little at a time, or a lot at a time, or sometimes a little and sometimes a lot. Maybe sometimes nothing at all. But we can certainly bring it. So let's go to Micah's question. Thank you, Micah.
Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. See here, we have a number of questions in the Q&A. We have two hands up with Francisca and Mika. And let me allow Francisca to go first, please. Hello, your microphone open, but we don't hear any sound yet. Perhaps you need to hook things up a little differently. Still don't have any sound, Francisca. Okay, we'll let you try to figure that out. I think you may have to even restart and come back into Zoom and select your, check the box for allow sound. Or maybe there's some other setting. Okay, we'll go to Amika then, and is it Micah? I believe it's Amika. Maybe you should tell me, and we'll allow you to talk and see if Francisca can work it out. Go ahead.
Thank you, Rick. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Is it Mika or Micah?
It's Micah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Thank you. No problem. Greetings, Mr. Keshe, Rick, Universal Council, and knowledge seekers throughout the Unicos. Mr. Keshe, you have taught that man has miserably failed to create children of peace through the physicality, and that the children of Mitra, created through the soul's field rather than the physical interaction of man, represent a new path forward for humanity. How is a child of Mitra created without being born through the physicality process we are all accustomed to? And if humanity were to raise even a small number of such children, what field change would this create on Earth? Would it be sufficient for the universal community of other star systems to finally recognize us as a soul that has come home and is ready to integrate? Thank you.
The soul of the children of Mitra are created through dimension of the fields. Their physicality takes dimension according to the position and position, which means now we create their physicality and then we, what we call the soul.
So again, it's just a reverse process. We create the physicality as we normally would in having a child, but this way we start with the energy dimension first. So it's energy first and then the matter. In the way we're creating now, it's the matter first and then the energy comes afterwards. This is what he said. Yes?
Mark, it's important to mention the physicality that you're talking about. But when you have the egg and the sperm, those are coming out of that physical body. So that's the physicality, the energy of it. It's what we regard as coming out of the physicality. So to 22 entities, the egg and the sperm come together. That's coming from the emotions of those two physical bodies before it gets to who we are, the child. But with the child of Mitra, it will come from energy to physicality. I just wanted to point that out.
So yeah, so they create the energy center first, apparently, and then I think he'll explain a little bit more here, and then that energy center decides what sort of physicality it will take, if it takes any physicality at all. As we know in the universe, there's beings in physicality, which we see in the craft. There's beings that are just in the dimension of energy, and then apparently there's beings who operate in both dimension of energy and physicality. very much about what he's teaching us about. But that's my understanding. Of course, the creator is in the dimension of energy, as I understand it, but is represented in the physicality by all its creation.
And in the process of the creation of the Chinna Mitra, we look or we see the creation of the soul first. At the moment we go from matter to energy, the Chinna Mitra created through the energy to matter. Then would this matter be in the mother? Would it be in the environmental womb of the solar system, the galaxy, another planet, another dimension?
And again, I think that dimension could be right between your ears. Man exists and operates in the universe, and the universe exists and operates in the man. So do you have to travel in a craft to meet one of these other beings to do something like this? Nope. That's the universe. That's the space technology he keeps referring to, and I missed it for quite a long time. But of course, that's just me. But when he says space, again, I think it's that space between the ears, not physically going out into the universe with a craft and meeting other entities and giving energy. It's not going to work that way, I don't think. Although it could, perhaps. I think that would be another alternative in creating children of Mitra.
In the world of the present science, we talk different dimensions, but in fact, dimensions different level of strength in magnetic fields in the knowledge of the plasma. If you understand that, then it's very simple. You fall in love with a woman from planet Zeus. She has no womb. She has no reproduction part that fits you as a man from Earth. But the emotion of the love from man from Earth and the emotion of the love from the woman planet Zeus has a fruit. They interact. You feel each other. You, with that feeling, with that emotion of now we feel it's correct, you create the energy. And that child could be born on planet Earth.
And of course, this is what we've been told to call the Immaculate Conception. This was apparently, in a way, how Christ was created in a way. So this is not something unusual, but it's gone on far longer than we're even aware of. And this is the best way the universal community has found to create new entities and new dimensions, is not through physicality, but through interactions of energies.
What I call the Venus of Zeus has no womb on this earth. It creates in that environment which allows it to. And the child takes the image of the point, place of manifestation. This is the difference. Now that we understand this, as I said very recently in many talks, in the world of today, we go from matter, we burn it, and that's it. We heat it up, we do something with it, and that's it. In the dimension of the energy, we go from matter to energy, from energy to matter. The way we use the dimension of gases into energy, and from it we produce matters, as you saw in Beijing in Meoplastia.
So what was this, if I can just put it up there, let's see if we can just do that. Let's see, E, right? This is this the formula of Einstein? E equals is it the E equals MC squared? No, squared would be on the bottom. Let me just erase that on the top, right? Not on the bottom. So back to the And E equals mc squared. But Mr. Keshe said this part, the speed of light, and somebody explained, doesn't have anything to do with energy equals matter. Anyone want to explain it?
Sorry, Mark. I thought that he said, hello, Mark.
Yes.
I thought he mentioned the word mass. You know, if he's taking it off of mc squared.
Matter state has mass. Energy has mass.
Yeah.
Matter state has inertia along with that mass, which causes it to manifest in the matter state, as I understand.
Yes, and as I understood, it would be the difference in your MAGRAPH between magnetic fields and gravitational would give you that M. I guess we should ask that question at some point, make sure.
Yeah, in the dimension of energy, we go from matter to energy, from energy to matter. So here it is,
Right.
E equals M, two-way street. We can just put a little...
All right, thank you, Mark.
Yeah, that's just my understanding, and I know my understanding is incomplete. So they go both ways. Matter goes to energy, and energy goes to matter. This is the cycle of creation. But the speed of light, I don't know if it was put in there to confuse or intentionally to mix us up in a way, even though we were told this is, you know, absolutely correct and everyone cheered it on. But apparently there's a lot of flaws in some of these physics. And this is what we're opening up, this energy dimension, mystery of it.
It's the environment which decides what that child, the emotion of love, creates. Man and a woman still connected, so it takes place shape in the womb of the mother. This is what I had to answer to a couple of what I call multiple flag people, as we call happy people or the gay guys. How can we have a children through the soul of the, you know, through the children of Mitra? There is no limitation. You find how. Would that bring another dimension of the creation? This is what we have to understand.
So another dimension of creation, he's saying that can be achieved, but it's not a child that you sort of take possession of, I don't think, unless it wants to be there. It may manifest in any dimension or any sort of physicality or not manifest at all. But you're creating an energy center as I see it. And the rest, in a way, is left up to that energy center to decide what it wants to do and where it wants to manifest, if at all. So these are, in a way, different. I remember in the past where, or isn't it in the cycle of creation where Mr. Keshe says your true children will come out of your soul in the future time? And that was years ago, and now we're just sort of broaching this subject. So are those your true children, or are your true children the ones you've created in the physicality? This is the way he was putting it in a way.
We become passengers of the universe, and reproduction, it does not stay exclusivity of man. As we know, man is not the only created thing which is traveling the span of the universe. So now we have to understand.
And again, when he says man is not the only thing traveling the span of the universe, where is that universe? I've always pictured it as, you know, me going by Mars or Jupiter or something else. But I think traveling the span of the universe is right within your own sort of cranium, if we could put it that way. This is the space technology. This is Mr. Keshe's technology. Of course, it can be used to make craft. It will be used to make craft, but it's a different type of journey in so many ways, moving the physicality and the energy dimension together as we do now when we board an aircraft. So when he says going out into the universe, again, do you have to wait to get on a spaceship to do this? No. That universe is right within you. Just my understanding, or the way I'm seeing it at this point. So I want to be impartial. I'm not saying you have to see it that way. This is just the way I'm looking at it.
Not to accept because Mr. Keshe said so. We have to understand the process of the creation. In your blood.
So again, he put that out in another. So we have to understand, not to accept because Mr. Keshe said so. We have to understand the process of the creation, which even the prophets, if you could believe that, were ignorant to the process of creation. So we're quite fortunate and humbled to be in this position in a way. Or maybe in more than one way.
Is iron in another energy transformation and circulation in acid. How do you mix the amino acid of the man with the acidity of the life of another woman? Now you understand how deep the teaching is.
Anyone impressed how deep the teaching is? Would you like to share anything with us? You haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet, I know that. Or we haven't gotten to the bottom of it. We're just starting to scratch the surface of it, as I see it.
You is just daughter of Chidnomitra. To us is to introduce to you the reality which the man would encounter in its travels of the space universe. Even man can do today. You said yourself emotionally that physically you don't produce any sperm, but you have that emotion of the what we call love to create a child. And you find a woman who's there to do it, and then you feel it. The way in the physical life of today, you feel the ejaculation, and the girl has already released an egg, and they meet the woman. You feel the energy transfer from the soul down the spine. It's a very emotional position. You don't feel matter state, you feel the energy. And it's the mother who decides in that womb how she transfers that energy into. Those of you who will create children of Mitra as a man, you'll find out that the process before it, as I tried to explain, that how the Chinese get themselves ready months before to have a child, diets and everything else, and what the priest says to them to do, you'll find out you have no sperm. You have no ejaculation. As you go more for it, you find out the release of the energy. To you, it sounds funny and something not there. We know exactly what we're talking about.
So again, we might think it's funny or not really there, but as I feel, they know exactly what they're talking about. And this is how the creation expands in the universe. And again, that matter state, if it takes a matter state, is only about 5% of the entire universe. So either there's been a lack of creation in the matter state, or most beings, perhaps, or entities, if they're there, perhaps prefer to stay in the matter state. I mean, in the energy dimension. Some of them, I think, even feel it's beneath them to manifest in the matter state condition because of all its sort of foibles in a way. But as we understand, there's much to learn in the matter state as well.
You transfer the energy. You don't need billions of sperms one finding. You transfer the love of the Creator through the soul of the man. And if the woman is there for that purpose, you'll find out you create children of Mitra. Children of Mitra need devotion to peace. Children of Mitra need devotion to understand the love of the Creator. It's not just something I do.
So maybe we'll think about that as we get that children of Mitra need devotion to peace. So those that are creating these children, do they need a devotion to peace as well? I would think so, if that's what's going to come out and connected to.
And mankind is not going to be unique to it, as it's the process which is already happening in the universe as universal community. Many of them have found out that's the only way to create what we call mixed races.
Anyone thinking about this for the future time? Apparently we could do it today, or we have the potential to do it in the future as well. And this doesn't seem to matter with age, even though, as we heard, be careful if you use some of the products in the store where women could get pregnant and so on. But this sounds like there's no age at all, and it's not a physical interaction, it's just an energy interaction. And these apparently are your true children. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I know for the fact that racism will go away easily.
Well, it already has, I guess, in the Keshe Foundation. We're a non-racial, non-religious, space-based organization. And I was always thinking, when he says a space-based organization, does that mean they have a platform up in space somewhere? Because we're based in space, right? Again, I think that space is between the two ears. We're a space-based organization. Any other comments?
Do you transfer the emotion of your love to your child, to your mother, to your father, to your wife, in any other form but by emotion? And they feel you.
And I'm sure we've all experienced that. How many times can you feel your lover is something's wrong, or something's wrong with the child? You just get that. So this is understanding in a way through the emotion. And again, you can't hold it in your hand. As he said in a couple of times, it's not build me something anymore like a system. It's feel me something. And of course, we know that's the connection to the Creator, is that weakest, humblest sort of emotion of giving. And this is what was demonstrated in Beijing, and this is what he's saying you can do the same with your reactors.
So man has to learn how to do that for the generation of the next generation. Children of Mitra will stand like a red rose amongst those who are not created by the same way. As man learns, man will do and gradually will become part of. Will create both sides, children of man and children of Mitra, from the same marriage, from the same reunion. We decide.
So more surprises coming up in the near future as this process starts to take place. I guess you'll have families with both through the birth canal and through the creation of the soul first. But apparently, I don't know what he meant by the red rose. Everyone has different sort of interpretations that causes different emotions in people, but it'll stand like a red rose among those who are not created by the same way. So apparently they'll be quite admired. Is that the idea? He said we would fall in love with these children of Mitra, or their behavior perhaps, or their emotion. And again, would you have to see them physically to feel that emotion of a child of Mitra? I think not. Anyone?
Man has the capability to do so. You have to decide if I create a child through the love of the soul, or I create a child through the physicality of the man. To you, it's fantasy, but the reality exists. Any other question?
As he said many times, much of this is beyond the imagination of the man or beyond many of the science fiction movies that we see, but some are getting very close, as one of the knowledge seekers was talking about drones and other things they've seen in the movie. So, but again, sometimes they introduce things in the movie to get us to say, oh, we saw that before. That was in a movie 5 years ago. But very amazing process that humanity is going through. And we're only, in a way, the early pioneers going through this process, as most people, again, are too enamored with the physicality, even though I am too, but I'm realizing step by step, slowly, gradually, that there's a energy dimension that I exist in as well. Let's check in with Alex. How are we faring, Mr. Alex? We're going to do the Dome of Peace for the next 5 minutes or so, I think. And let's check in and see if there's any update. Otherwise, we can go back to the teaching and hear about the problems man is creating for the elephant. Or, as he said, the elephant is really the unicos or the universe. Alex?
Yes, please do that.
Okay, why don't we do that?
Thank
All
you.
right, perhaps we'll stop here. What we'll do is we'll go to in the creating the Dome of Peace. We'll then go to the teaching, and when you're ready, you just come in and we'll stop the teaching, and you will take over. Okay, does that sound? Anyone want to add anything at this point? Any thoughts, comments, questions, or what have you? And as I said, I'll put some of these links in later. But again, the process of the Keshe Foundation is to create peace and enlightenment, and there is a game called Peace and Enlightenment. I don't think I brought it up here, but I could. And let me erase these drawings, because now this comes into play here. Clear all drawings, thank you. Okay, and just to show part of this network that's being set up, in other words, there's a unit, which is a type of computer unit that's used to play the game. It's called the One Nation Network. And this One Nation Network, which is right here, it's they're looking to put into the field 10,000 more or less over the next coming period. And this is part of creating an entire structure that the Cosmic Ray Technology and other offers from the Keshe Foundation, for those in an association of the Keshe Foundation, And maybe some of those who are not in the association of the Keshe Foundation will be able to take advantage of. So in a way, he said, you wanted peace, we put peace on the table. This is what's called the One Nation Network. You can read about it. The game will be embedded in here. Currently, they're plugged into the wall. I don't know if any of them have actually arrived or they're testing, but this is what's happening now. And once the cosmic ray antenna is introduced, these units could power themselves and will add a energy of many different things into the game. Probably energies for wellness as you take advantage of that offer, or the feeding, or the travel, or the wellness. So all of these are going to be embedded into this very simple, innocuous looking game, and maybe it's oversimplified at this point. We'll bring that up in a moment. But just to show at this point, this is the financial and licensing arm of the Mark Ray Corporation. It is of the Keshe Foundation. It is called the Mark Ray Corporation, and this is where the cosmic ray technology is being licensed and used and replicated. So this is an arm of the Keshe Foundation, and the cosmic ray technology is what's being tested right now in what we call transmutation tests, or transmission tests in a way, that these things can actually be brought into the game. So these are monthly, in a way, sessions that helps keep the Keshe Foundation free for humanity to develop this alternative system of bringing cosmic ray technologies to within the reach of everyone, but especially those in the underdeveloped nations. And they, of course, were systematically kept underdeveloped. So as he said, they'll be releasing coins to some of these countries that they can start off on the right foot and have resources where they can order some of these things. Again, you might want a glass of orange juice. You will not get the physical orange juice to drink and swallow and digest. You will get the energy of that glass of orange juice and the emotion of that taste, I believe, of the orange juice, and you'll be satisfied. And of course, if you want another glass or another dose of energy, of course, you can order a second drink. And this will be available to people that have cell phones or computers. And I'm sure we're going to start seeing some of the results of how successful this is working as we've tested some of these things years ago within the monthly sessions. And as he said, if the satisfaction of the hunger only lasts a day or two, you just go back into the system for 30 minutes and you can carry on for another period of time until you're hungry again, or if it only lasts you a few hours. So this is the way people are going to start to bring themselves out of physical poverty, but also the poverty of our thinking and the tuning of our minds to the matter state. We're now going to understand more in both. So this is a gift to humanity, and it's not really yours, even though there's an offer of some Keshe coins per year to those who actually purchase something like the One Nation Network. But these transmutation sessions and other sessions are sort of part of the research laboratory for Keshe Foundation and for embedding these technologies within the Enlightenment game. And so you say, what is this game? We'll bring it up if we can right now, real quick. Sorry, I didn't have it up, but we'll just bring it up right here. There's a world version, there's an Indian version, and there's a US version, and there's a Chinese version, which is being worked out right now. Again, we need time, or the team needs time, not myself. I'm just playing it and having a little fun and feeling certain fields of emotions by playing this game and collecting resources. You can go to the manual on this side of the game, and what I need to do is to mute if I can. Can I mute the tab? Yes, I can. That way no noise will come through. That could be part of the game. But you can go to the manual here and you can read some of the basic core idea, as it said, of this game. And it's all about collaboration, cooperation, and bringing the man into a peaceful condition by just playing the game. And people have reported that from Dr. Gatwa to others, that they felt peace playing this game. So this is, in a way, the cornerstone of how the technology, what we're talking about with the cosmic rays, the wellness, the energy, the feeding, the travel, is going to be delivered, as I understand it. Plus, there'll be some other systems, I'm sure, and many products that you can actually physically purchase. But this is an alternative. And here's the marketplace. As I said, it has a marketplace feature. And this will be, again, it's just in its infancy, barely out of its infancy, but not even out of diapers yet. So be patient with the game. This will all be added onto and improved. And of course, there'll be other graphics put in there and other exciting features. But it's a game of learning. And of course, there's a Wikipedia that you can go to and learn more about each countries. I have a feeling it'll be expanded into the solar system and then the galaxy and so on. So this game has far-reaching implications and applications in the coming time. But by being a member of the association of the Keshe Foundation, I think you'll be able to trade with other members of that association, as well as take advantages of those who are in an association of offers from the Keshe Foundation. That's just the way I'm seeing it at this point. But this is the backbone of the technology, as a matter of fact. We're just gathering some resources, as you can see here. I'm at level 1. I think there's 8 levels or 9 levels. I'm not sure. But it does take some time and patience to move along with this game. But this will give you the ability to make life less harsh. And of course, what we're seeing here is life is getting harsher for many, many, especially for the less fortunate ones who don't have any resources or were born with very little or no resources. So we can share with other countries, we can trade with other countries, and this will, again, I think even Iran is going to be one of the first ones, because of their devastated economy and infrastructure, are going to be gifted these Keshe coins that you can then start spending, I believe, within the foundation structure for energy or emotional balance or wellness and so on and so forth. So this has far, far reaching, but it's just the freedom of humanity covered up by a game in a way. So it's just for fun. The coins we talk about are not the type of cryptocurrency and all the rest that you hear about. It's internal to the Keshe Foundation at this point, but it's part of a much bigger structure. And as I said, all products will eventually be touched by this technology. So we'll have a unique alternative to which you'll still have to operate, as I see it, in the dimension that we're operating now in the matter state. But this is another dimension of the matter state, but it also has an energy aspect. So this is where you'll find peace and enlightenment and giving. And the current structure, which we're all familiar with, is the stealing and killing and the rest of it, and unenlightenment. So this is where we'll find people that are enlightened, the people that believe in peace and want to promote peace, not only on the planet, but across the universe. And of course, sharing knowledge. As he said, even the compression technology we were talking about a number of workshops ago will be embedded into this game. So just by playing a simple game, and of course, it's probably going to get a little more complicated. As he said, the ethos sinks in, and so does the knowledge. Certain knowledges will be embedded into this game. So enjoy the game. It does teach you to create and think, but it also makes a peaceful man out of the man. Again, playing on the greed in a way. As he said, you can earn up to 2,000 or 2 Keshe coins a month, or 2,000 euro. But the idea is not to sort of play for money, but to become peaceful and enlightened. And it's built into this very simple looking. As he said with the Cup of Life 1, he said it looks simple because we designed it that way, but it'll take man centuries to figure out what's going on in this Cup of Life. But I think this is a very huge reactor in a way that all of us, and even if the lions and the ants can't come into this process, they'll be touched by the web of cosmic rays that this is generating through the One Nation network and so on. So that's just one feature of, or a main feature of the way the Keshe Foundation is going to deliver some of the technology through the cosmic ray. Any thoughts on the game or comments on this game? Anyone bored? Anyone enjoy playing it? It does seem it's pretty much your own sort of universe in a way, even though there's others playing at the same time, which we do bump heads at times, which is same way when you get into a line, or as I said last week, you get a buggy in the supermarket parking lot and someone else is going for the same buggy at the same time, and you only realize it when you both approach and so on. So that happens here as well. So it's not perfect yet, but it's being perfected. And we thank the team and the developers, and they're going to put a lot of exciting features. And this is going to be a much easier way. As he said, the Keshe coin will become the effort of the man in future time, because it makes your life so much easier to live. Where if you're paying $500 a month for energy, with this system, you may be able to pay $50 that you earned in the game as you're towards the energy supplies coming out of the Keshe Foundation. That'll be the same for your medical coverage, as well as your travel budget, perhaps, as this starts to get developed using the cosmic rays. And as we all understand, we're very soft targets for cosmic rays. Just ask any astronaut, you know. If there's no other thoughts, let's go to create the Dome of Peace. Any comments? Any thoughts?
Yeah, Mark, I was just wondering, I don't know if you remember, Mr. Keshe said when we did the beta testing, they're going to get back to us, and either that we have to buy the wallet, or they're going to send us some information after they get through it. Is that going to be like through the game, or how's that going? Do you remember how that's going to work?
I'm not sure. You're talking about this Keshe Coin ID wallet.
Yeah, Keshe coin. Yeah, and they were saying that it's going to go through the game here. They're going to send us email to, because we played it. They want to kind of how you say give us some incentive because we did go through it.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if you have to call them or let them know that how we can get the wallet, how we can buy a wallet, or either buy more.
You have to order it through the store, as I understand it, but that's only when you those are for your Keshe coins, which the coins you play within the game are different. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't been briefed on it for sure, but it did say you would need a wallet to store, or anything that you've accumulated. So I'm not sure, but when he mentioned the child getting so many 1,000 Keshe coins in a poorer country, that they didn't need a wallet or anything, because it would be and the parents and everything couldn't touch it, be part of the game. So I'm not sure exactly how this is, but apparently everyone will eventually need a wallet to store what you've accumulated, as I understand it. Or if you bought a One Nation network, apparently you earn 2 Keshe coins per year. So where would you put those 2 Keshe coins you earned other than in I don't think this is a physical wallet like you put it in your pocket, correct? If you were to buy a network and you were to earn 2 Keshe coins a year, it offsets the cost of the unit for sure, but you'd need a place to put it unless it just stays in the game. I'm not that advanced, and I don't have any currencies like that in the crypto world and the rest, even though this is not a cryptocurrency. This is an internal coin to the Keshe Foundation at this point, until future developments in banking and other things recognize this, and other coins are subsumed within it.
I'm sure Mr. Keshe is going to explain later on.
Yeah,
We're impatient, that's all.
they're just trying to work out some of the, the teething problems with the game and the rest of it. So as he said, give them 24 months, 12 to 24 months to smooth this process out.
Sounds good.
Because there has to be a way in the marketplace for them to not launder, but take the Keshe coins and put cash in it. So they need some major people backing or buying Keshe coins that this whole process can work, as I understand it. And again, I'm not briefed at all. I know as little as everyone else or as much as everyone else about this, and probably less. I'm usually on the lesser side, knowing. But it's all being staged and being gifted. As he said, this is the biggest gift that he delivered around Christmas to humanity he could give. But it's for us to bring it and develop it and expand it, just the way they're doing in the research centers and the rest. So we wanted peace. Peace is on the table, even though we don't see it, and we're not seeing it manifest yet in the matter state. This is, in a way, your escape platform, let's say, from the matter state environment. It'll become much more exciting in the future, where you can buy and sell and perhaps trade currencies and other things. And there'll be a lot of other facets to it that have not been revealed yet, as I see it. And of course, I have no inside knowledge whatsoever. So even if you twisted my arm, I couldn't tell you anything different. I'm not sure. Okay, any other questions about the network, the coin, the transmission sessions? And of course, it's all tied in together with the stock of the Mark Ray company, as I understand it, and with the cosmic ray material, which is called a cosmic ray ball, which is right here, which is $1,000. The coins are valued at $1,000. If you buy a coin, you can do that at info at Keshe Foundation, and that earns a 3% dividend, as I understand it. But this is part of the structure. We call it a cosmic ray C14 material embedded within this ball in this beautiful presentation. The Keshe coin is also valued at 1,000, again, staying stable. And the stock, which is only in the pennies of the Mark Ray Corporation, is projected in a way to be valued at 1,000. And this is part of a bigger structure, which I'm not sure how it's all linking together. But it has to do with space travel. Again, space between the ears, I think, not so much taking off in the craft at this point. Okay, so one of our side projects or main projects is creating a dome of peace. And by creating that dome of peace for others or other universes, you actually feed your own structure in this. And it has a two-step process. One, something for the physicality to do, and then one for the energy side to do. Again, getting you used to you operate in 2 dimensions. Every Sunday, we release Gans Waters. The Brazilian team has put together a couple of backgrounds here. Let me just share. And again, a beautiful group to get to know and to interact with. And there's activities that you can join on YouTube or on Telegram or some other links on Zoom. This is the Sunday where we release the Gans Waters. And again, understanding this process of creation. So every Sunday at 12 and 6, we release Gans Waters, and it was, again, hard to imagine. It sounds funny how water carrying some energies or some fields in it could actually make a difference. But apparently it does. It knows where to go, and it knows what to do. And I believe it's going to be enhanced as some of this energy dimension is turned on as the grid network is being completed, let's say. So I don't know if they'll glow or just pulsate more, perhaps on the energy dimension of what you released. And again, you can release it by spraying it, putting it in a fountain, a river, an ocean. It will actually clean up and balance out many, many environments and even within the home. But the idea is to give, and it's something for your physicality to do. So you can join us collectively with the Brazilian team, and you can join the Brazilian team every day. Wednesday, it's at noon or 6 p.m. noon for me, but 6 p.m. Central European Summertime as we switched over. But they also have a daily intention at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. Central European Summertime. Again, you can see these platforms that you can join and find out more and make new friends in the Brazilian team. And you don't have to say anything at all. As he said in the past, the children of Mitra are not there with the physicality, but they support with their presence. So you can just be there and your presence will support and add to these wishes and intentions, and they've been carrying them forward. Again, the soul has that power to do. So feel free to join if you know Portuguese people speaking Portuguese and they would like perhaps something to the, as one of the knowledge seekers said earlier, he said, I want to change to the structure that I'm operating in. And this gives us, in a way, a new dimension or a new structure to open up through the other knowledge seekers and also through the game, which I'm sure they're playing very strongly in Brazil, are they not? I'm sure they are. At least on my version, I see many playing from Brazil. So thank you for your participation in this whole map. So let's go to the actual presentation of this, and Stefania will describe the releasing of the GANS waters. As I said, the Chinese have been doing this for more than a decade. It's part of bringing balance, and this is the way you sort of elevate the planet using your physicality, or the GANS, which we know is a state of matter between plasma and matter state, if we can call it that. Sort of has its own special category. But this is the first step of creating the dome of peace, which is releasing of GANS water. So we'll hear Mr. Keshe, and this is the way, in a way, you balance or elevate something without really rolling your sleeves up and doing it. You're allowing the fields to do the work. And of course, the next step is the collective power of our energies, which we can do the same thing with our own system. But you'd have to understand how this works a little bit, but it's not difficult, and any child or adult can participate in this.
I don't know if anyone wants to read this demo piece. Anyone want to offer?
I will
With a nice
read it
voice.
for you.
Okay.
This is what came in and what is now become a pattern. This from a guy, I don't know him, but he says, please remember this Sunday and every Sunday from now on, till we raise the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet. Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers worldwide will spread the GANS waters around the world at 12 p.m. Central European Time and or 18 p.m. Central European Time every Sunday at the same time as they choose which time to suit them. Thank you for participating in this greatest movement by the soul of the man to bring about the peace on this planet as the permanent feature of the life of this planet.
Okay, thank you, Stefania. Again, as we can all see, it's something for your physicality to do. If you're not sure how to make a GANS, you can go on the Keshe Foundation wiki, learn a little bit about it. It's very simple, even though we thought transmutation in a way was very hard and many scientists pursued it, but you can do it right on your kitchen table. You then take that water, maybe with a little GANS in it, and you release it. So it's something for the physicality to do, as you have to make the product or nanocoat copper and so on to make this material, or you could buy it probably out of the Keshe Foundation store. You take the top third of the water after the Gans is settled and just add your intentions to it and release it. It knows where to go and it knows what to do. You can spray it at your home, in parks, rivers, on plants and the rest. Leave it out for water for animals that come by or your own pets, and they can help spread it as well. And they'll be touched by it as well. But I think once this network kicks in and the cosmic rays start creating this bigger grid network, that it's going to energize some of the GANs that we've been releasing. And so you can choose 12 p.m. CET or CEST or 18 p.m. and just, again, collectively work together. So that's the first step, something for the physicality to do. And then we'll go to the second step of the Dome of Peace, which is about the collective power of the souls. This is where, in a way, we're opening up the mystery of the matter state of the entity to its energy dimension, or to its energies, I should say. So let's hear from Shweta. Thank you again, Stefania.
Anybody wants to read the Dome of Peace? I mean, Beautiful Souls. Anyone? Here? Okay. I'll read this beautiful presentation of Dome of Peace. And the Dome of Peace is already here. All the knowledge seekers, truth seekers, lovers of humanity has built it in a way, spreading the guns, loving each other as shareholders. So I will read this as please remember, every Sunday from now on until we raise the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet, Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers worldwide will spread the Gans waters around the world at 12 p.m. CET and or at 18 p.m. CET every Sunday at the same time, as they choose which time to suit them. Thank you for the participation in this greatest movement by the soul of man to bring about the peace on this planet as a permanent feature of the life of this planet. Mr. Keshe suggests we add the next step to create the Dome of Peace with power of the souls, as we have already going through this with the 2 eyes. And we ask you to spread the Gans waters each Sunday. Now we give you a new path. Now try to unite each other's souls. Try to elevate the souls of humanity, soul of humanity, through your own soul to a level that no one can touch, the embodiment of the human race. So beautiful. Choose a time where all of you come together on the soul level in a state of inner calmness. At that time, don't spread the water of Gans, but spread your soul. Unite, and in time, we will make a new race out of the soul of man. And then, instead of doing it once a week, do it all the time. Keshe.
Okay, so it says choose a time where all of you come together on the soul level, and that time has been chosen apparently by the Universal Council. So you're all invited to play on this energy dimension. If you think you're not strong in that area, or maybe it feels a little bit hokey to you, this energy dimension, go back to the last 20 minutes or so of the 23rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop, which you can find on YouTube, and you'll understand the process a little bit deeper. I'm sure everyone here has heard that before, knows what I'm referring to. But again, the 23rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop, it's going to take all of us in a way. We have to bring sort of the change. We're being helped in a way, but humanity has to wake up, and the collective awareness has to bring that change. We have to want this peaceful condition. So you're invited every day at 9 p.m. And it's not limited to 9 p.m. You can do it at any time and connect to any soul. And unifying the soul level every day for the elevation of the souls of all leaders and soul of the totality of the Keshe Foundation, creating peace. So you're welcome to participate in the daily process here. And of course, you can pulse it more than once a day. You could spend a nanosecond or a minute or whatever you'd like. again, if you're busy working or driving, you can still participate, as the physicality in this instance doesn't have anything to do with it. As we see in the first step, the physicality has something to do with it. But in this dimension or in that space, you can participate, whether you're physically hiking or biking or cooking or whatever you're doing, and just join the other energies, central energies, and give from our soul. And in this process, we get nourished, and we're also exploring our energy dimension that we can elevate and receive energies. As we give, we receive. So we're not losing anything. It's not like you're taking $100 out of your pocket, but it's something you're creating within you, these fields of peace and balance and elevation for these souls that are loved. So let's just go through that if we could. We'll just take 1 minute of time. And this is, well, it's a little past the 9 p.m. Central European summertime, but let's just take 1 minute of our time. Again, working in the matter state is more work or can take a lot of work, but working in this dimension doesn't take a lot of work, and it happens in a way instantaneously. So let's just put our collective awareness and emotions together. And the beauty of this whole process is nobody fails this test. So you're already successful even before you start. As I said, if you don't feel strong enough, review that 23rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop, the last 20 minutes, and get an idea of giving or praying through your soul. This is the energy dimension we're being opened up to. Even though we've heard of prayer in a way before and meditation, this is something I think a little bit deeper. But again, it's all how it befits you, not the way I tell you to approach it. So let's just take 1 minute of time, and we can start now and give to these souls that are in need. It will benefit you in the future time as well as now. Okay, so thank you all for your continued participation in this process. And again, you're learning more about this energy dimension. And we don't want to wait till we get out into space. As we understand, we'll have a lot to learn if we sort of procrastinate on this investigation, even though it's being, in a way, put right in front of us to find out now and save us a lot of perhaps learning in the future. As he said, if you wait, you're going to have a lot to learn. So let's get into it and keep exploring it, because as I feel, we've just scratched the surface of this deep understanding. Okay, let's check in with Alex for a moment and see how he's faring in the background. Otherwise, we're going to go to the beginning of the teaching and hear how the elephant is, in a way, feeling irritated about these hyperactive children, not only the world leaders, but apparently humanity as a whole. This idea of killing and destruction has to be sort of taken out the way the elephant wants to get rid of that stone in its foot. Alex, I see your screen has come on. Please feel free to engage. And thank you for being with us and sharing more of this universal knowledge.
Well, thank you very much, Mark, for bringing us here. I really appreciate your fine work. And thank you all for being part of the Keshe American Knowledge Team. 2026. We have lots to be hopeful for and lots to be proud of. So before we get into it, let's just do some business and let's take it away.
Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
And thank you very much, everybody. Welcome to the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute teachings on plasma science. We're going to begin on the Advanced Picotech series. Today's topic is margins. My name is Alexander. I'm from Canada. It is April the 5th of 2026. And so in this continuing process of public teachings, we're trying to stay ahead, or not ahead, but to keep up with Mr. Keshe, who is very far ahead. Many, many years of experience, over 5 decades. We're only into our second decade, but we've been trying. And we're trying to maintain a connection, the bridge between the new knowledge seekers and the mature knowledge seekers. We have only penetrated a small percentage of the awareness on this planet. So it's a burden for many of us to try and bring the rest on board, so to speak. But there's no forcing to the initiative. It's all a welcoming, it's all a gracefulness. And so we try step by step to bring people closer through the understanding. And now we have a whole host of new reinforcements coming. And so we've finished the intermediate Picotech series, where we discussed ribbons, beacons, inherent, array, blur fill, and of course that bullseye, which is what makes the plasma technology so unique, because it's very accurate. And so we're discussing the Advanced Tech series, trying to continue on a little bit more information, a little bit more elaborate, but still trying to maintain a connection to the beginning. And many of us are at that beginning. It's a very proud time for us to be in America. And, you know, all of us have the responsibility to be not only the last man standing, but to stand tall. We have lots to be proud of. And so we're discussing margins, and what are they? We sometimes refer to them as a financial margin, where we measure profit, or a trading margin where we measure gain, or a margin of error where we kind of measure loss. But these margins are kind of generally speaking, an allowable space between 2 points of reference. And the plasma science is in many ways exactly that way. So when we talk about a financial margin, and just let's break it down to very, very basic math. And say businessman A has $40 and businessman B has $20. And you say, well, what's the difference? Well, it's $20. But that's one answer. The other answer is that A has twice as much as B. So then there's another possibility, a trading margin. Let's see if through our business activity, we can increase our margin by 10%. So where A had $40, now A has 44. And B, who had $20, now has 22. So where the difference was 20, well, now the difference is 22. But A still has twice as much as B. Well, let's see what happens when we impose a margin of error. Let's say it's an error in business acumen, fortune, or subterfuge, causing a decrease by about $20. So A, who had $40, now has 20. And B, who had $20, now has, well, he has the square root of 0. And the difference was $20. And the difference now is still $20. But the true difference is that A is wealthy and B is broke. And so this is why we have these 10 commandments, so that we understand the rules of the game. And it is a game, it's a game of life. So it's not just a matter of believing these rules, but it's a matter of understanding these rules, because when we go beyond the 10 commandments and we find the other 14 for a total of 24, we see, well, number 11 is thou shalt not lie. And that's kind of important, especially when you're in a business arrangement. And it's important whether you are telling the truth or whether you're telling the lie. Because obviously, if that business arrangement is a poker game, then the best liar wins. And so this is where we all fall for this angular density. We fall through weakness. And if we understand scientifically that increases the density, and of course it increases the pressure, presses down on us because of increased gravity. But here's where we get this increased dependence on this Earth space feeding, and it creates this internal pressure of Gauss fields. And this is important because it counterbalances that angular momentum. It's the only way that as fallen angels, we can conserve that energy. But are we fallen angels, or are we arrived? Because this point of view has a duality. Well, we see this duality sometimes as just a dual, where energy manifests as friction. And as we extend our hands, maybe we clench our fists and manifest into fighting and create this confrontation, so that the gentlemen can shake hands but come out fighting. Creates an inertia density manifestation, which is important because energy binding for self-serving purposes is extremely important. There's a dimension point, and you are it. When we say, well, I want to bring all these forces together to enhance me, myself, and I. But we find it all too easy to do it at the expense of others, isn't it? Why work hard to increase your profit margin by 10% when I can totally undermine everything that you're doing and render you bankrupt? So this diminishes vitality. The truth is it diminishes vitality for both. If your neighbors are poor and you are rich, the only way that you can maintain your health and wealth is by force, as if you're the king. Because if you don't do that, you will no longer be wealthy. There will be balancing of the books, shall we say. So in this regard, all of us are louche leakers, because louche is that vitality that is manifest in our emotional and physical context. And so we can enhance our vitality in a regular way through building our little nest eggs, feeding our family, building our homes. Or we can do it the superconductive way with the plasma science, and we deliver the emotional enhancement, which automatically delivers the physical enhancement. And so this is where we have this matter plasma dimension confrontation and the segregation between the physical matter state, where you can touch it and see it, in a plasmatic matter state, although you cannot touch it or see it. This is all part of the feedback. We don't see the feeding part, because the feeding part feeds the matter. We are feedback dominant in our point of view. And so that singularity causes us to live in a box. We say that in the past, men lived in caves. Nothing much has changed. Now we live in high-rise caves. We call them condominiums or apartment buildings. So how do we get outside of that box? So we kind of have to expand the understanding of the old science and get into the new science, the plasma science that goes beyond. And it goes beyond in both directions. And so this is why we've been discussing the nanotechnology and the pico technology, and we are looking to go even farther beyond than that. Well, let's just see if we can rationalize the basic understanding, because the principal matter, which is the fundamental matter, we call it PM ticks, and they're magnetical in their nature. They travel as an energy pack, and they come together into a force field, which is a combination of antimatter, dark matter, and the matter gen, and it converts into a plasma gen. This is part of the force field dilution. And then we have this Earth space, a maggrav that is gravitational, and it too is our home. And so when we come to that home, we have a field interaction between the Earth space field and the man space field, and we call that inertia, and that inertia manifests into physicality. So now we know that procedure, and this has been demonstrated May the 10th of 2025 in Beijing, where the 2025 gold rush began. And we are beyond now into 2026, and now we have a silver rush has also begun. But it's not limited to that. We have many, many rushes at this point in time, because it all stems from this pico atomic understanding that has gone beyond the nanomonatomic state. And it's like a beacon, and it has this gravitationally inherent field strength, but then it has this emission array. And so it takes us from that nebulous, blurry point in that nano gap. It's kind of like having your feet firmly planted in midair. But that's not where they are. They're firmly planted on the ground. And we are in that carbon-12 transmission state. We understand scientifically the connection with the carbon-14 transition state. And we're increasing our awareness of the carbon-16 transmutation state. And each of these states has their own field strength and relationship. And then, of course, performance. And so we try to explain that in Marin Tevakoli Keshe's book, #1, The Universal Order of the Creation of Matter, describing the coming together of the principal matter. And then book #2, The Structure of the Light, how we go from one principal matter to another. And book #3, when we create this matter, it talks about the origin of the universe, where that matter splits up into two. And of course, our universe, we call it man's universe. Yeah, man's universe. Not my universe or your universe, but man's universe. And it's a smaller universe than our sister universe. But we don't even recognize that because we are still having trouble understanding man's universe. We still haven't even fully explored it yet for some reason, even though we're technologically gifted. But we seem to reside in that small speck we call Earth. And it's only part of man's universe. So our schemes are extremely tiny in comparison to the universe. But in the plasma science, the schemes are even tinier. We're in the pico state. And for 424 weeks, Rick Raman and the Universal Council have been bringing together the one planet, one nation, one race for justice and world peace to begin the understanding of the pico science and to sow that seed of understanding. The understanding when the plasma rule where the higher strength feeds the weaker strength, not where the higher strength bombs the weaker strength. Either way, it becomes a transaction zone. So even when two armies are fighting, that becomes a conflict point. But in reality, it's a binding zone. And through its warring nature, it becomes an inertia density manifestation, because that's what that is. So there's a progression and there's a sequence. And we say the attraction is a gravitational feedback. The repulsion is a magnetical feeding. And you, as the last man standing, have choices. So we can turn on and turn off this feeding, or increase or decrease the strength, or enhance or diminish our positioning. Understanding in all cases that the stronger feeds the weaker. So always there's a transaction zone. And as we focus on singularity, that requires a solo effort. But duality requires a partnership. And in order for a partnership to work, that requires reciprocity, where the both sides have a balance of incentives. So the question in terms of amino acid star formation creation, is this folding deviation? What is the difference between the solar system and the human body? And so when you look at some of the components, they're common to both sides. How we describe them on the atomic state as an element. Each of these elements are part of matter. But each of these elements were created as an energy. And so we have to understand that there is clearly a difference between the energy in a matter state and the energy in a plasma state, as there is a difference in the matter in the physical state and the matter in the plasma state. And the case in point is that we all know that if our atmosphere is saturated with carbon dioxide, we will suffocate. That's how we put fires out. One way, anyway. So that anything within a forest fire that is put out in this manner would suffocate. But if that carbon dioxide was in a plasma state, we would still fulfill the function of extinguishing the fire. But everything within that forest fire could breathe. So the question is, what exactly is the nature of that oxygen? Because the oxygen is necessary for the fire to burn. And the oxygen is necessary to breathe. So if the oxygen has to be present for the fire to burn, and the oxygen has to be present for the body to breathe, how can we distinguish the difference? And so at that point, we are at the crease of the folding deviation between the physical science and the plasma science. And there's another problem, of course, and that is density. We see that gravity seeks density, and this density operates within the Coulomb barrier. But the maggrav is constantly in balance. And we see two types of maggravs, both in balance, where one is concentric rings and one is a spiral. I wonder which one is the correct one. So when we see the two forces come together, as the PM ticks are coming together, you could say, well, you see your planet, or choose your planet. Is it real, or is it just a dream? And as the thoughts come together and create a field, then you see the duality of this inertia manifestation. And this manifestation is regardless of time and distance. But one is in concentric rings, and one is in a spiral. And when these two forces come together, there are overlapping fields with different personalities. And so that's what this is all about. Because when we look at frequencies and see a sine wave in singularity, because our vision is digital, but the sine wave is an analog, we only see the peaks. We don't see what's below the peaks. Maybe we should call them the pico peaks, where you can peek into the pico. But if a sine wave is a duality, then you have many more peaks. So we define this plasma as there's an inside and there's an outside. We do the same thing with our aura, where there's an inside of the aura and the outside of the aura. And so we like to always define our boundaries, right? So say, well, this is me and this is not me. And That's within me, but outside of me, well, this is me and that is not me. So we define our boundaries, whether they're inside or outside. So if we review, there's an inside and an outside. And the outside has an inside portion and an outside portion, and the inside portion has an inside portion and an outside portion. So what does that mean? That means our point of view of these peaks is the top only. And so there's a path as things move, and that path link is through these peaks. And the bottom is just a blur fill. We don't see that. So therefore, the susceptibility of what we see is the upness versus the downness. All right. So as it's coming, we see it. And as it's going away, well, that gets replaced by the next coming. And so we always see that coming together. And so we capture within our dimension this reality bullseye dimension, which is this physical field capture. And we attribute it a rock solid evidence, because our feet are firmly planted on the ground. That's why we call it terra firma. But interestingly enough, when you look at Saturn, it has rings, and these rings go beyond that Saturn firma. These rings are visible, and in between the rings, there are shadows. And so the body of the planet is different from the rings. And there's a gap between the body and the rings, as there is a gap between the rings. And in fact, there are various densities of rings. And then, of course, there's the outer edge of the rings. So there's a clear distinction between the inner and the outer. So how we interpret things is between what we call no man's land and no man's land, right? So the feeding of the soul of man is very specific. And the feedback of the environment is also very specific. It's the feedback that gives us our presence of physicality. And when we combine the two, they feed the soul intention. That's the emotion of presence. And so that is what we are doing between the in part and the out part of our aura. We have our physicality. So the earth space has a peace dome that shields us. And so we allow what we need. That's the RNA feeding. That's part of the feeding state. And the earth space itself is a refugium, a safe haven. And that gives us our feedback. So our mattergen reflection state is a combination of the RNA feeding and the mRNA feedback. And that takes us right down to the DNA level, which is an inertia density manifestation. And it is always precise, as we've seen with the raindrop beacons. Wherever that raindrop falls, it's right in the middle of all the waves. The waves go up and the waves go down, and they go all around. And so that magnetic strength from the raindrop is imparted through its gravitationally inherent picocore. And this seems contradictory because gravitationally it attracts. So if the waves go out, there has to be a conversion. And so we see the drops come perpendicular to the surface of the water. It is through that angular momentum change that we change from that gravitational inertia to that magnetical inertia. And so we create these waves. And so the waves, when we see them in singularity, from that point, they come in and then they go out to the left and out to the right. But since there's an upness and a downness, then we have to take into account that the wave is traveling in two levels. So really, in duality, there's a wave that is going to the left and to the right in its upness phase. And then there's a wave that's going to the left and to the right in its downness phase. And there's an upness and a downness, and it all has to kind of work together. And that's how you get this laminar flow. It causes a physical acceleration because the wave is going out and the ring is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it acts in a plasmatic superconductivity. So both the up and the down become part of the gravitational motion, and that blur fill threshold becomes that magnetical movement. But what happens when you have a circle? This is a hexagonal circle, a little bit different from a squared circle. And these are how nanocharges work together. You've got a beacon charge and you've got a beacon discharge. So the charge comes from the center where it's gravitational and goes to the outside where it's magnetical. And the Earth is structured that way. So it doesn't matter where you are on the Earth, you always have your boots on the ground. You're not upside down, you're not down under, and you're definitely not on the ceiling. So we know that the rain comes down because of the inertia density manifestation. This is what we did in Beijing. We had these rotating balls, and they weren't in singularity, they were in duality, and they created this star formation, and all the tables were the same height. So we were able to create an inertia density manifestation on the same plane, and it was raining gold gats. And some of it landed in the spoons and some of it landed on the floor. But each one were created as a dynamic blur fill reactor. In other words, we had the rotating balls and there was a field that was created within that star formation, and it kept being created. But the difference, of course, it wasn't just at the pico core. That was the bullseye. It was raining all over. But today's topic is margins. And so if we understand phospholipids, which are the walls of all our cells, we find that the phospholipids are made, as are the amino acids, and we've talked about them, how they created in the star formation. They have hydrophilic heads and hydrophobic tails. But the boundary of the cells has two layers. And the tails come together. And since the tails have a negative charge and common charges repel, then there's a gap. So the gap is between the outside and the inside. And we call that the transition zone. And so the outside has a linear margin, and the inside has a linear margin. So the transition zone is linear. And so if we're discussing plasma matter margins, we can say, well, the plasma state has a huge margin to jump to the physical state. And the GANs to the nano state and the nano to the atomic state are smaller margins. Or we can say, because of the transition, because we have MAGRAV energy transfer states that always keep things in balance, we could go all the way from a plasma state down to an atomic state, or we could just go from state to state where we go with a smaller margin. And so now we have a difference in the two margins. In other words, it's another margin, a margin between the two margins. So what happens if we go from that linear margin to a curved margin, as it is in the cells? Well, let's just look at the phospholipids. There's the same number on the outside as there are on the inside. So the outside has a certain margin, but because of the curvature, the inside has a smaller margin. And this is only possible because in that picocore, that gravitational bullseye, you can squeeze that. And you can squeeze it because it's in a plasmatic state. So you're still maintaining the margin between the inside and the outside. But now you've introduced a curve. So what does that mean? Within the cells, you're converting food to GANs for the purposes of energy supplementation. The cells don't have a mouth. So before they can benefit from the food, they have to convert it. And that's how they absorb that nutrition essence. It's a gravitational attraction of energy. But now you have waste that has to be released. It has to be released as a magnetical essence of energy. And of course, that becomes repulsion. So in that gravitational manifestation, we find the calcium becomes the inherent seed, that internal pressure of that gravitational neutron at the core. That's the inside. And somehow we have this plasma margin array. So there's an effect on the periphery that goes in a concentric circle where the inside is a circle and the outside is a circle. But then you have the outintensity interaction. That interaction between the inside and the outside in a dynamic plasma flow. So we have this duality. And so this is where the matter-plasma dilemma really takes hold, because in order to maintain this equilibrium, we have one side of the equation balanced off with the other side of the equation. So the equation itself is at the gravitational core. And the manifestation is at its magnetical point. So that if you look at the plasma state, in order to maintain a balance, it has to have a balance between its magnetical and gravitational position. Or if you're going from state to state, it too has to maintain its balance between its magnetical and gravitational position. But this is a linear structure. So if we look at the GANs of the soul and how it is at that transaction zone in the picocore, and we created the cups of life, we did that in our physicality. We created products, GANs of emotion and GANs of physicality. And then we found we can make a GANs of a GANs. And so we take the cup of emotion of one and the cup of emotion of another, put them together, and we get a GANs of emotion. And the GANs of physicality of one and the GANs of physicality of another, and we get a GANs of emotion. But that emotion has a physical tendency on the inside. It's more gravitational. And the emotion on the outside has a different kind of connection. So we don't see that. All we're seeing is the cup of emotion relationship with the cup of physicality. And so we see ourselves as that gravitational entity. And we're traveling. We're traveling in a magnetical field. That other part that we don't see is the connection to the universe. So we have the GANs of the copper, which is physical, and the GANs of the zinc, which is emotional, it comes together and creates this connection that we call the carbogen, which is the GANs of the carbon. And that carbon is different in its plasma state as opposed to its physical state. And so the cup of the universe is a manifestation of the energy of love. And our arrival here is through a gravitational context. So is what we're seeing a symmetry or a reflection? In other words, if we're looking at it from a linear point, we could say, is it a reflection or is it an illusion? Or maybe if we're looking at the energy of love and see it in some kind of reference, such as Aphrodite, the ancient Greek goddess of love. It takes two. But is it just symmetry or is it a reflection? So when we look at the different carbon inertia highways, we have to understand that there is a substrate. And that substrate is a reflection and it's symmetrical. And it too has a substrate. And the question is, which direction is it going? So when we look at the cosmic ray equilibrium, we find that the total package is not in singularity. It's not in duality, but it's in relativity. That is to say, the margin within is balanced off by the margin without. And in each increment is balanced off and has its own margin. So as the margin, shall we say, gravitates to the core, it becomes smaller. And as the margin expands magnetically, then that margin is bigger. So in order to maintain that equilibrium, the magnetical margin has to equal to the gravitational margin in field strength. Otherwise, you do not have equilibrium, and otherwise you do not have a mag-grav condition. And if you don't have a mag-grav condition, then you simply don't have the creation of free plasma, because you can't have a inherent connecting line between nothing. You always have to have something. And that connection can change. It can be squeezed. That connecting line is gravitational. And at that point, it becomes part of the picocore. And so we understand better how the carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen, which we call the amino acid, is part of the creation of life, because these are the building blocks of life. But they too are a structure within a structure. And so we demonstrated that with this inherent susceptibility and singularity in Beijing. And we've seen the black powder. But there was an inherent susceptibility in duality. And this gravitational component was completed by an external input of a Gans field of humanity. And that was where we imparted our gold finger to finish the job. So we see that life is full of these counterweight measures. So when you're only looking at certain types of physics, we measure them in physical state by weight and atomic state by mass. But these are part of the gravitational component. The counterweight is in the nuclear state we measure by Teslas, and the plasma state we measure by time. And these are always balanced. The magnetical gravitational counterweight measures are balanced together. So here we are, standing on the shoulders of giants. Are we being sarcastic? Are we being prophetic? Are we being philosophical? Or are we literal? Since the larger feeds the weaker, the larger is gravitational. But the result is the same, isn't it? When the larger stands on the smaller stands on the larger. So our interpretation is that margin of victory in a plasma state. Because there's 2 points of view. And that's how the plasma works. No two are the same. And so one is gravitational, one is magnetical. When they come together, they create this transaction zone at the picocore. And we are gravitationally certain that we have this oxygen, which is important. It's a non-visible gas that's crossed the threshold from the plasma state to the physical state. as energy, it underwent a plasmatic decay to GANs. And that GANs decay went from a gas to a liquid to a solid. And so that is part of the gravitational inherent property of the Earth space. But we require supplementation due to our habit of consumption. Part of that consumption is knowledge. We had to acquire it. It came to us through a conditional teaching by ancient teachers. Acting as intermediaries between that unconditional teaching by the Creator, it created a shortfall of 20%. That margin of error in our awareness, and now we have a new awareness where we see that margin between a historical threshold between cosmic feeding and loosh harvesting. And these are inherent attributes. We have a gravitational conformation, a center point, a picocore, a gravitational certainty, which imparts a mutually assured construction, always. So as we try and find the cornerstones of the spheres of the three dimensions, maybe we're just monuments of litter here or here or here. And we're just a blurry point of stability, a blurry point of security, and a blurry point of certainty. But wherever we are, there we are. We're the three dimensions of our position bullseye. You can't miss, even though we are in an uncharted territory, because we are an array within an array, and there are many stars beyond that nanomonatomic state, covering the full range from decay to radiation and back. And it's all embedded in the ancestral intelligence, that AI, where we are the technology and we are the inertial product. We are the image of our dimensional convergence point that's coming together. And so we have this discrimination where we select our personal star of physicality and our soul of physicality of our sun. And we fill that threshold in a blurry manner, not understanding that there was a pre-selection process where the soul of the physicality of the stars of the universe came and were shielded by the sun on many levels that afforded us that certainty, that margin of life, so that we can elevate and expand. So where we find through that gravitational stability, where the margin is smaller, that becomes the position of choice. But the emotion of a position is a bigger margin. That's why the magnetical stability equals the gravitational stability. And that's why we call that elevation. And so when we see the humanity civilization, we all emanate from that inherent dependency on this earth and space. And we are all emissions from that beacon. And we all have our position. And we like to look at ourselves as each a contributing member of that civilization. And so we all have divergent opinions, despite the fact that we all have the same story of the Great Flood. How could so many divergent civilizations have the singularity of that story? So we have to have a better understanding of that energy portability, that energy state transition. One we call elevation, where we take that physical matter state, which we are so familiar with, to that energy state. We all would like more energy, so that we can have that inertia state where we take that energy to a physical matter state. We all like to enhance our physicality. In the physicality, the margin is smaller, but in the elevation, the margin is bigger. The elevation involves expansion. So to expand from that greater oneness to suddenly transcend the limitations of nuclear science. For 636 weeks in a row, the Knowledge Seeker workshops have been bringing together this science, understanding how we have this inherent cosmic ray transmission, and we will learn more about it. The next sessions are in April. Also, we have more coming in May and beyond, because we're all part of the research, converting diamonds to gold or silver or whatever you want. Since May the 10th of 2025, we have come to that pico core of truth. And we have to spread that margin of knowledge and expand, facilitate a scientific rescue, opening the blinds. We've hit the bullseye. Now we have to expand one nation network at a time. And that time is now, because we've understood better that an embedded inherent frequency, as we discussed in the 630th Knowledge Seekers Workshop, how the soul and the soul of physicality threshold requires a blur fill. And the soul and the soul of physicality always hits the bullseye. And the margin of error is 0. The targeting is perfect. Our mission is to bring peace on earth and join humanity with the universal community. We want to bring man as equal to all beings in the universe by teaching the plasma science and technology equally to everyone, that no one is left out and no one is abused due to the lack of knowledge. This is the Keshe Foundation, Spaceship Institute Teachings on Plasma Science, welcoming all the beautiful plasma travelers of the carbon nations, learning about the new frequencies of the new organic plasma science. There is a World Peace Treaty. You write it, you choose it, you sign it unconditionally, and mean it sincerely. Because the point of the true Picotech is the seed core manifestation. We have to reduce the margin between the war dome and the peace dome. Is the inertia of the present governed by dimensions of history, or is it time to learn the history of self in a universal context? The pico state is a superconductor with a marginal strength. This is an important point, because the margins of field strength are inertia gradients of the pico cores of matter, plasma, and universal states. And that's why the plasma science is enhanced daily via the Peace Dome in a practical exchange for peace on Earth. So welcome to the new golden outer space age. And I hope you enjoy this first class. Thank you for allowing me to present.
And we all thank you for presenting and sharing your understanding of this deep, deep knowledge. Let's see if anyone has any questions or comments for Alex. I know he seemed to think that grain of rice has more intelligence than mankind because it created itself without killing. So maybe these, as he said, we need to look to some of these plants or other things. Have they signed the World Peace Treaty in a way, Alex? these plants and tomatoes that can create without killing or destroying, apparently, by just working with the fields? Is that he said that was a lesson the creator put in front of us, or a mirror, and none of us, we don't want to look into that mirror. For what reason?
No, I think the rice had the commandments of rice and were good students, that's all.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment? Or a question? Or an issue with the game, or any other topics related to the Keshe Foundation and its work?
Hi, Alex.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So, what do you think? How do you connect? If we have to connect with our emotion, what is the for a novice? How would you explain that we have a way? We already have connection with a higher entity or higher plasma. Let's say another planet, or let's say the creator. But how do you explain to someone like a novice that they are connected, or how do you connect to whereby they can be in control of that connection?
That is the challenge we're all facing. So the two dilemmas that we have to overcome. One is the educational system that has ingrained our way of life and made it socially acceptable to be greedy. And the second is to explain that there is another possibility that can manifest simply through a change in point of view. And we have to really, today, we really have to dumb it down, because our current generation is not capable of reasoning. They want everything handed to them on a platter. So they live in a kind of different world where the compassion for their fellow man has been downplayed, and the notion of killing has been glorified. And so we see, shows like American Idol and X Factor, and you see our teenagers who are craving for that attention. It's strange that they would crave for attention so desperately. I mean, we all wanted attention in our older generations, but it comes to the point where there's so much competition out there. So in the past, through the onset of, let's say, television, we were kind of amazed, at some of the things that other people were doing, and we found it quite entertaining. But the stress on the entertainment then becomes greater, because that entertainment, becomes blasé, I've seen that. What's new? Can you show me something different? And so the pressure comes, and we have to show more and more and more. And we are looking for a kind of amazement. But we have an amazement. Life is an amazement. And what's amazing to me is how little we know about the life. And what is gratifying to me is that, and I have now something to compare to, which the younger generation doesn't. So that is that I used to be young, and I used to have ambitions and aspirations, and I had many, many questions. But one of the things that I was confounded with constantly is that we didn't have answers to these questions, or the accepted answer was, well, we don't know. It was always the collective, we don't know. It was never the, well, I don't know, you should ask someone who does know. Or there must be someone who does know, and I don't know who that person is. But those weren't the answers. The answers are, oh, no, we don't know. Just slough it off, we don't know. Why is it that we were the ones who wanted to know, and the professors whom we were asking and depending on teaching, and didn't just have to be professors, but had to be experts in their own field, or even talk about experts, let's talk about parents. They've been through the whole thing. And how many times you hear the parents say, oh, you know, I remember being young and I remember being, you know, a rabble rouser, and now, you know, I want to discipline the kids because I know what happens when they're not disciplined. And so you get this pushback. So that's a very good question you're asking, because that pushback is what's preventing us from moving forward. It creates a resistance. And that resistance can be like a jack in the box. As long as you have the lid on the jack in the box, I guess everything's okay. But if somehow that breaks, that lock or that clasp is broken and the jack in the box pops out, it's hard to put it back in again. So what has happened in the past is that, well, we just get rid of that box. We just throw the jack in the box away and start all over. And when you look at the war games that they're playing on Xbox and PlayStation, they're war games. They're games about killing, promoting killing. And when you die, oh, that's okay, we just reset. It's a false analogy. You can't just reset. At some point in time, you have to get serious. And that's where we're at. We have to understand the gravity of the situation. And until you come into a life or death situation, it's hard to understand. And that's one of the problems. Things have to get worse before they get better, because it's there that you start to gain that momentum. So as we try and put that jack in the box back in the box, we're actually squeezing and compressing, and that creates the pushback. So you want to be on the side that is at the core, so that you can enlist the services of that pushback. So it's not a matter of competition. It's a matter of understanding we're all in the same team. We're all part of the humanity team. So let's identify where that compression comes from, that external pressure, because all we're seeing is the pushback. And so, do we want to enlist the services of that pushback, or do we want to be part of the compression? So that's the first choice that we have to make. And then the second choice is that we have to create a welcoming environment. That's all I'm going to say at that point.
So in a sense, that pushback, it's does it need to be confirmed? Because if I'm to connect to something, I kind of like one, I need confirmation to show that I am connected. But in terms of plasma, what I guess Mr. Keshe is trying to let us understand that the pushback is always there, whether we observe it or not. Am I correct?
Well, the pushback that I'm referring to is not the repulsion. The repulsion is inherent as part of the opposite of attraction.
Give and take, yeah.
The pushback that we're talking about in this context and you know, based on your question, is that we have an inherent pushback between adults and younger generation, right? The younger generation thinks the adult generation is stupid, and the adult generation, of course, thinks that the youth are stupid. And so there's a confrontation there based on attitudes and prejudice. So the way to mollify that is to enlist the services of that pushback. So the pushback is inherent, it's just misdirected. So we have to it's like a healing process. You have to start at the core and bring that energy to the core that is healing. And then you have to enlist the services of the surrounding fields and think of it in terms of concentric circles. And as you expand and go to a broader circle, so you think of that point of pain as the bullseye with the raindrop in the middle of the waves. As the waves come out, each wave becomes a point of enlistment. And that enlistment becomes your asset, not your liability. Becomes your friend, not your foe. This is the way the construction works. It works for cooperation. So when you look at the margin, peace and prosperity, everybody prospers. But it doesn't satisfy the greed. So if I undermine you, I can bankrupt you. I may be poorer, but you're broke. And when you're broke, I'm wealthy. So this is the kind of rule that we've been working at in business. And it's truly unfortunate because all of us are suffering through the limitations of that kind of philosophy. So instead of generating peace and prosperity, we're generating financial wealth. And financial wealth is really accumulation of cash, accumulation of money. And so you see people putting money into the bank, into an account, which clearly is a demonstration that they don't understand the value of money. Because money is just an exchange, it's not a measure of wealth. The true wealth of a nation is based on the poorest member, not the number of millionaires, but the amount of poverty that you have. Because as the margin increases between the haves and the have-nots, the quality of life diminishes to the point where you go to the extreme and you are the most wealthy, you have all the money and everybody has no money. You will be happy and everybody else will be happy because they own nothing. Well, they will only be happy until they find out that you have all the money. And so the only way that you can maintain that superiority is by being the king and the Lord, the ruler. And so when you look at the first commandment, I'm your Lord, your God. So the king becomes the controller, and in that point becomes your God. It's an artificial reality. And then there's a tremendous pushback because all the peasants are revolting, as Marie Antoinette said before she was beheaded. But we are masters of disguise and deception and lying. And so you find that the agent provocateurs are the seeds of subterfuge and destruction, and they masquerade as your friends. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So the shepherd protects you from the wolves who masquerade in sheep's clothing. Well, thank the shepherd. Thank the Lord, your shepherd, as he escorts you to the slaughterhouse once you're plump and fat.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ike, and thank you, Alex. Any other comments or questions? Alex, I was wondering if you could draw an analogy or a comparison. I guess there's energies below femto, but could we compare or look at the idea of femto, pico, nano, and milli, very similar to, can we compare these? This is a creation process. How do we compare this to the thinking, speaking, and acting? Are the thinking fields even lower than femto, perhaps? Is that where the creation starts? Can we make a comparison?
Oh, the comparison is only in the ratios and the margins and the gradients. So the threshold is the transition between the plasma field and the physical field. So the physical field has a unique characteristic, and that is the physicality. But it is all part of the plasma reality. It's just one stage. It happens to be the lowest stage. So, you know, as we are obtaining the energy of the cosmic rays, they have to step down. So they literally have to step down from the femto, you know, to the pico, to the nano, to the milli, until they get to that oneness. That oneness is the physicality. And that physicality is at one with your soul. So interestingly enough, the soul is within the physicality.
Right, but I was just thinking of the thought as a very small, weak energy. And then if you keep playing with it, and then the speaking would be of a higher order because that's a combination of two energies, the soul of the man with the soul of physicality, and then the acting would actually bring it out into the matter state. But I guess if you think it, you have much as created it in so many ways. Ike, is that a hand, or did you want to add additional to this? Feel free, you don't need to raise your hand.
Sorry, that was an error.
Yeah, that's no problem at all. So that's what I was thinking about this creation, about the thinking, speaking, and acting compared to the smallest, which would be the thinking or tiny, and then that builds up into something like a pico.
If I may suggest.
Yes.
So in book number 1, The Universal Order of Creation of Matters, we have the antimatter, dark matter, and the matter state. So the the speaking part is part of the physicality. This is why we say that words don't matter. Well, they do in the matter state, but they don't matter in the plasma state. The intention is what matters. That's why we have the capability of lying, because we have a delay in consequences. So we have to, shall we say, cultivate the skill of learning how people lie and seeing through it. And we can't see that with our eyes. We have to see it with our soul. So that becomes part of the antimatter state. So our ability from the physical point to look at that, we have to cross that threshold of the dark matter. So if you review those three states and compare them to the universal order creation of matter, I think that'll shed better light on what you're trying to achieve with those thoughts and speeches.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have another thought or comment they'd like to add here?
I would like to add one more thing.
Sure, of course.
If we look at the curved margins of the cellular space, we find that the outside is one margin. The inside is another margin. But the inside comes from all sides. So if we were to look at the inside margin from the right and the inside margin from the left, that would be two margins. And from that point, the outside remains at one margin. So there's an inherent 2-to-1 ratio in simple terms. That's not correct, but in simple terms, just to have a comparison, the gravitational core has twice the margin as the magnetical outer part. We'll use that as a springboard for next week.
Okay, good. And if we see this as three-dimensional rather than two-dimensional, is there a difference?
Well, yes, because then it's not linear anymore. Then then you start to expand in every direction. So it's like the raindrop hitting the surface of the water. We see the wave formation on the surface of the water, but do we see the upness and the downness, which is perpendicular to that motion? So remember, the raindrop falls perpendicular to the surface of the water. And so the combination of the transmission and transition is the transmutation.
Sounds easy enough. Anyone else want to make a comment or a question? Otherwise, I'll play the final disclaimer. Alex, thank you. Anyone else? Or Alex, did you want to add more to what you've already shared?
I just want everybody to remember that peace and prosperity are our inherent goals. And it's not just the foundation. This is all of humanity wants that. So I want to thank you all for being part of the collective soul. And let's just continue. And thank you very much for allowing me to continue to present. We're all in this together. Thank you so much.
Okay, very good. If there's no final thoughts or comments, we'll close here. I want to thank everyone. We appreciate your presence and we acknowledge your presence. And I think we're all being, in a way, prepared for a bigger order of work, so to speak, in the coming time. Whether, again, we're here in the dimension of physicality and energy or just existing in that dimension of energy. But I think there's a lot further to go. As he said, we can see how deep this knowledge is starting to become. So thank you all. And again, we thank our souls for, in a way, bringing us here. Otherwise, we probably still would be wondering about all these things that the rest are wondering about. But we're certainly starting to get a little bit more stable in our understanding of this energy dimension, even though we've just begun. So thank you all. Continue exploring and opening up, promote the game of peace and enlightenment, be patient with it, and be patient with the others playing the game as we're all learning and, in a way, developing this idea of peace and enlightenment within our own universe. Because you're going to take that universe and go somewhere with it. And this is what he said, we've been peppering the universe with these wrong emotions or fields from this planet. So the elephant is about to remove the stone in a big way, let's say. We all know the uncomfortableness of having a stone in your shoe or in your foot. Okay, I'll play the final disclaimer. Let me bring that up first. And then we're going to share the screen. Thank you all again. Continue. There we go. I'll play the final disclaimer and the session will come to an end. Where did that go? I think it's here, but something else happened in the background. Let me just make sure we're sharing this properly. Yes. Okay, thank you all again. Have an amazing rest of your day. We'll see you in one of the upcoming meetings, perhaps the One Planet, One Nation, One Race in the same room as the Knowledge Seekers Workshop at Tuesday at 4 p.m. Central European Time. And then, of course, the Reactor Group on Wednesday, another public program, and the Knowledge Seekers Workshop on Thursday, plus all the different public programs of the Keshe Foundation in the public domain. And we know that it's happening in Africa and in South America. This is one of the ones in the United States and Canada and so on and so forth. There's meetings in German, there's meetings in China, and there's probably other meetings that may be small, but they are certainly growing. And I think humanity is reaching that point of being frustrated with the current structure and how hard it is, in a way, to survive without stepping out of the bounds of doing the right thing, as Alex was alluding to. But we have a way and we have a solution, and we're going to start to bring billions of people out of poverty of the physicality, as well as poverty of our thinking or our minds. Thank you all again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.